Okay. All right, we'll be getting started in a minute.
Need it too. I need it too. So it's like that's what I can't about.
Okay. Everyone's muted. All right. Can the folks online hear me?
Yes.
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 Yeah.
Yes.
Just a second. I gotta give me 1 second here. For the folks that are here in person, there's some snacks up in the corner here, and there's a bathroom like right around the corner. And, sorry, it's only a single person bathroom, but take turns. Okay. Okay, 1 second. Why isn't it doing presentation mode is what where's the presentation mode? Oh, view.
Or this right here.
Right. Oh, but I mean like well, I'll just go without. I just have some notes, but it doesn't show them.
Oh, I see. Should be
just to get it to go into presentation mode, you know, with the no, like with the notes. Yeah, that's okay. Well, that's okay.
okay.
I think it might be view. Those view tab.
Yeah, let's look under there real quick. Can we look at the?
That's where I was.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, actually start the presentation and then the bottom left, those little transparent buttons, I think you can then switch it to present this.
Oh, yes, thank you.
Yay.
All right. Okay.
Teamwork.
Teamwork. Okay. All right. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for being here. You are at the public comment meeting on the petitions for proposed changes to the use of public waters rules regarding wake sports. My name is Laura DeLucalecki, and I work for the Vermont Department of Environmental Conservation in the Lakes and Ponds program. Typically, I work with in our regulatory group on issues of shoreline protection and lake encroachment, but in the last few years, I've been pretty involved with these use of public waters rules. With me, I've got Misha Setner, who is the regulatory lead, the coordinator of our regulatory group, and then Jenny Austin is our new program manager. And in the room, we also have Olin Reed in the back. He's also in the Lakes and Ponds program, and he works in the aquatic nuisance control part of our program. And as Jenny mentioned, there's a single bathroom out in that lobby there. And the exits are just right out in that lobby as well. As you can see, we've got a pretty busy, full agenda tonight. I'm going to give about a 10-minute intro as to why we're here and how the process will go and where we are in this entire process in the big picture. And then we'll kick it off with each specific water body that submitted a petition. They'll get 10 minutes to give an overview of their petition, and then we'll hear comments. And we have about half an hour for comments for each water body and a little time built in for transitions. And we'll try our best to stick to this agenda, but if we get ahead, that's okay too. This is a hybrid meeting, so for those of you who are online, please keep yourself muted unless you are asked to speak. We'll be calling names so you know when it's your turn to speak. If you're in the room, please come up and get this microphone and speak into it, because the people online can only hear if you're using this microphone. For our records, this meeting is being recorded, and probably my goal is within the next week or so to get the 2 public meetings up on our website so people can watch them. Prior to this meeting, folks were encouraged to sign up for a spot to give a public comment. We've got the list here of everybody who's signed up, but if you haven't signed up, we have some sign-up sheets over there, and we can call on you if you're in the room. If you're online, feel free to put your name in the chat and which lake you want to speak to, and we can call on you. So also, well, I'll say this on the next slide. I'll get there in just a minute. So I think I don't have to tell anybody here what Wakesports are, but just for posterity's sake, Wakesports are the use of a wake boat to fill ballast tanks or ballast bags to create an enhanced wake. So that's the active wake sports, and additionally, so is any kind of recreation that you do on that enhanced wake, like surfing. And this past year, on April 15th, 2024, a new rule went into place regulating wake sports for the first time in Vermont. So prior to that rule, technically wake sports could occur anywhere in the state that traditional motorsports could occur. So this new rule went into effect, and it essentially took wake sports off of a lot of our smaller inland lakes, and it limited wake sports to be allowed on 30 lakes around the state. And so why we're here today is that we've received 9 petitions covering 10 lakes requesting that we restrict wake sports further, that we remove 10 additional lakes from the list of lakes that wake sports are allowed. So the purpose of this meeting is to provide an opportunity for those who submitted petitions to provide an overview to the public about the content of those petitions, and then also an opportunity for the public to make comments on those petitions. This is the phase that we're in right now, is known as pre-rulemaking. So we're in the gathering information stage. So people have submitted petitions, and we're looking at the technical information in the petitions, and we're getting feedback from the public before we make any decision about whether or not we should move towards rulemaking. And this is outlined in our rules of procedures about how to handle petitions when they come in. So during the comment period, if you have been called on, you can come up here and hold the microphone, and we will time you for 2 minutes and politely ask you to, stop when the 2 minutes are up. If you want to finish your sentence, that's fine, but we want to really just keep people moving, keep it fair so that everybody has kind of an equal opportunity to say their piece. If you are online, you can unmute yourself, and then we'll kind of give you a heads up when your 2 minutes are up. So, just a note, it's just, let's be respectful. It will probably just keep flow going to not, hold your applause till the end. Maybe refrain from any kind of booing, but I think this is generally a very respectful crowd, so we can keep it that way. And then of a note, I just want to say that this public comment period, these 2 public meetings, so we had a public meeting on Tuesday with a much better view out the window of beautiful Memphremagog and not a parking lot. These two meetings are part of a larger public comment period that closes on December 23rd. And during that period, you can submit comments in writing. I encourage people to submit comments in writing. It's really helpful for our keeping of our public records. And equal weight is given to comments, whether or not they're made in writing, in person in the room, or online. It's really helpful for comments to be directed at a specific lake because we're evaluating rules for specific water bodies. However, some people do have general comments to make, and that's okay too. Just let us know so that we can keep that in the record. So this is the email address. If anybody needs to have this later, just find one of us and we can get it to you, or you can get in touch with me and I can give you that correct email address. So here's just kind of the big picture timeline. We received 8 of the 9 petitions in the last spring, summer, fall time, except for Caspian submitted theirs a year ago prior to the statewide rule being in place. So we worked with Caspian to defer review for a year until after the statewide rule went through, because it was we were in the process of rulemaking for the statewide rules. So we deferred review of their petition and began review of all 9 petitions this fall. They were all marked as administratively complete, meaning that they contained all the information we need to conduct a technical review. And so prior to making any kind of recommendation about whether or not to initiate rulemaking, we are required, as under the rules of procedure, to hold at least one public meeting. And so that's where we are right now in this rulemaking phase. After these meetings, after the public comment period is closed at the end of December, we will be reviewing all the comments and the technical merits of the petitions. And then we will have to make a recommendation to the Department of Environmental Conservation's commissioner about whether or not to initiate formal rulemaking on any of the petitions. So we'll have to make a separate recommendation for each petition. And then the commissioner will take our recommendation and all of the information that we provide them, and then they will make a decision with our input. And if rulemaking is initiated for any of the petitions, the draft rules will be written and filed with the Interagency of Committee on Administrative Rules, which is a lot to say, which kicks off another public comment period on the proposed rule. And that's kind of what kicks off the formal rulemaking process. And there's additional public meetings involved, additional opportunities for input. And so the reason we kind of have this timeline of fall public meetings right now in December is so that we have some time to do our review and potentially make our recommendation early 2025, so that if anything does move towards rulemaking, we can move towards a voting season 2025 rule implementation. So that's our goal. It's ambitious. We don't know what's coming or what bumps are along the way. So, but that's our intention. But there's no guarantees in the timeline, I should say. All right. So this is our agenda, and I will have the first petitioner come up in just a moment. There are, let's see. Yeah, so as I mentioned, there's going to be the 10-minute petition overview, time for comments, 10-minute petitioner overview, time for comments, and we'll just kind of go all the way through. Does anybody have any questions about the process or procedure? Okay. All right. So I think we have Richie, is that right? Okay. Let me just pull up you have a PowerPoint? And I'll give you the microphone to speak into. Yeah, you can.
She's seated. Where do you want me?
Behind this table right here.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just pretend like it's a podium.
Okay.
Yeah, we.
Is this on?
That is on. Yeah.
My name is Richie Berger. I was born and raised in Rutland, Vermont, graduated at the University of Vermont. I live in Shelburne. We've been lucky enough for the past 15 or so years to have a summer camp on Caspian Lake. And it's my privilege to speak on behalf of the town of Greensboro and the Greensboro Association as to their petition to the Agency of Natural Resources and the Department of Environmental Conservation to prohibit wake boats and wake sports on Caspian Lake. I should say at the outset that the town and the Greensboro Association greatly appreciates all the hard work that ANR and other state employees and officers have done on this very complicated and sometimes emotional issue. We appreciate what's occurred, but we feel it's imperative for the future of Caspian Lake, the town of Greensboro and the greater region, that wake boats be prohibited and wake sports be prohibited from Caspian Lake. They are not a normal use on Caspian Lake, and they are in irreconcilable conflict with the normal uses of Caspian Lake, which are swimming, sailboating, water skiing to a limited extent, fishing, paddleboarding, kayaking, you name it. And the town of Greensboro in particular feels incredibly strongly that the protection and preservation of Caspian Lake for future generations is both a legal and moral imperative. The town's 2019 town plan notes the importance of Caspian Lake to the town of Greensboro, that Caspian Lake sustains the town's economic life. And nothing could be clearer than that, having spent the last 15 summers, whenever I can get up there, in Greensboro and on Caspian Lake. And the town feels, again, and this is through its citizens and its elected representatives, that it's so important to protect Caspian Lake and its users, its normal and historical users of Caspian Lake, from the dangers and the risks of wake boats, that it filed an alternative petition with the Agency of Natural Resources under Title 10, Vermont Statutes Annotated Section 1424F, which says that if ANR chose not to act independently to ban wake boats from Caspian Lake, then the town select board asked for authority pursuant to Vermont law to ban them itself. That's how strongly it feels. And this isn't an adversarial thing. The town and the Greensboro Association have for decades worked in partnership with ANR and other state agencies to protect Caspian Lake and its traditional uses. Whether it's from phosphorus overload, the breeder program to make sure that milfoil and other invasive aquatic species are not kept, or even when the Shoreline Protection Act was passed by the state of Vermont, the town of Greensboro immediately enacted an ordinance so that it recognized the imperative of protecting Caspian Lake shoreline, its water quality, its fish and fowl, and its recreational opportunities. So the town and the Greensboro Association implores ANR and DEC to grant their petition to exclude wake boats from Caspian Lake and to prevent wake sport activities, which have never occurred to date and should not occur for the reasons that are set forth in our petition, but also I'll outline briefly today. If you can go to the next. By the way, these are my iPhone shots from my dock, so they're not professional quality, but my wife said I could show them. There's been a lot of talk about, and I know I only have 10 minutes, but all of the lakes, and I must say that I watched last night, I've read all 10 petitions, for 9 or 10 petitions, and it's just really inspiring, the folks who have devoted so much time, effort, money, and love for their respective lakes, and to protect them in this day of great environmental risk from the risk of wake boats. And it's not NIMBYism, it's looking at the present and future generations and what's appropriate for these certain lakes. And in the case of Caspian, which I speak on behalf of, you couldn't pick a more pristine. It's one of Vermont's jewels, 142 feet deep, a lake trout fishery, crystal clear water, loons, including breeding loons, recognized by Eric Hansen, who will speak later, and the risk posed by wake boats to them. But there's been a lot of talk of what are normal uses, and I'm going to take a few minutes, and I hope I don't run over, to stress what is a normal use on Caspian Lake and what is not. And it's not just what a buzzword. It's the controlling statute that deals with ANR and DEC's review of these applications, and it's set forth in statute that that normal uses, to the extent possible, shall be provided for by ANR. And so what is a normal use? And it's defined by the ANR public water rules, and it's reasonable and customary uses that existed back in 1993. Specifically, normal use means any lawful use of any specific body of public water that occurred on a regular, frequent, and consistent basis prior to January 1, 1993. And why is that important with respect to Caspian's petition is they had the foresight, the Greensboro Association, back in 2001, to petition the Water Resources Board to ban personal watercraft, also known as jet skis, as just inconsistent and not a normal use on Caspian Lake. And in a decision of October 10, 2001, the Water Resources Board granted that petition, and thank God, the jet skis have been banned from Caspian Lake for the past 24 years. And has prevented the degradation of the environment and the destruction of the serene, tranquil nature of that lake. And for the same reasons, and more so, wake boats should be banned from Caspian Lake. And this is what lawyers like to call precedent, in the sense that it set forth everything. People have been to Caspian, but this is findings of fact by the Water Resources Board on the Caspian petition as to jet boats. It says the waters of Caspian Lake are clean and clear, and the lake is mostly free from aquatic vegetation. Caspian Lake remains free from Eurasian milfoil and zebra mussels. 7, Caspian Lake supports an outstanding lake trout fishery. 8, Caspian Lake functions as a habitat for ducks, mergansers, loons, and other waterfowl. And the key finding, which is still applicable today, even more so, in this time of environmental threats, but because of the Water Resources Board's courage and judgment in granting that petition, in part, and the hard work of the town of Greensboro and the Greensboro Association, that's day in and day out, cleaning boats, checking boats, improving shoreline, waste septic systems, you name it. In conjunction with the state, the lake has gotten even cleaner, and loons have come back even more, and now we're breeding. But the Water Resources Board in 2001 found normal uses of Caspian Lake include swimming, including long-distance swimming, canoeing, kayaking, fishing, sailing, windsurfing, motorboating, water skiing, wildlife observation, and the enjoyment of aesthetic values and peace and tranquility of the water body. So we have findings of fact by the Water Resources Board that still exist today and apply equally to this issue of wake boats. And so what else did they find as to, next if you would, Laura, thank you. The board found that personal watercraft, jet skis, were occasionally used on Caspian Lake prior to 1993, but it was not on a regular, frequent, or consistent basis. The use of PWC or similar vessels has never been normal on Caspian Lake. Wake boats and wake sporting has never occurred on Caspian Lake, either prior to 1993, subsequent to 1993, last summer, or hopefully if this petition is granted in the future. What we're trying to do is act proactively and prevent the dangers from coming to Caspian Lake through this petition by the town and the Greensboro Association. Next, if you would, Laura. So, and they also noted there that even if you have rules relating to personal watercraft, they would not adequately address the conflict between the use of them and the normal use of Caspian Lake for quiet solitude. Just as was true in 2001 is true in 2025 as to Caspian Lake. 24, I'm getting ahead of myself. So that's what they found, and they found that because of the tranquility, the solitude, the quiet of Caspian Lake, these boats were not appropriate and they've been banned. The risk posed by wake boats to the normal users, the normal use at Caspian Lake, the swimmers, the fisher, the boaters, the scullers, the paddle boarders, kids learning to swim. Just, sorry.
Test, test, test. Is it working?
I don't know.
Yes, we can hear.
I can hear you.
Okay, somebody said they.
Sorry, I'm probably getting too wound up. Thank. Okay. So again, stressing what is a normal use, it's clear that the normal uses on Caspian Lake for at least the past, am I up for my 10 minutes?
No.
The normal use is not wake boats, and the town of Greensboro has found that the risk to the normal users of the wakes intentionally generated by these watercrafts poses a serious danger to the public health. And again, it feels so strongly that it's not only a part of this petition, but the alternate petition to manage and prohibit wake boats on its own authority with designation by ANR if ANR does not act on these petitions. And I guess lastly, I'll show the slide, and because I'm running out of time, but ANR itself, when it filed its proposed rule, recognized that wake boats were not a normal use on these lakes. They said wake boats produce.
I have a question for the commissioner. And that,
I think that was a video.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Could you go back? I'm not quite ready for the video.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't.
I'm racing through this, but my point is, as submitted initially as a draft rule, ANR recognized wake boats produce wakes that are significantly larger than conventional boats and are not a normal use of public waters as defined by the rules. Larger waves from wake boats have also created safety issues for other water users, such as capsizing smaller vessels. It's that precise risk of these wakes intentionally generated on Caspian Lake that the town select board and the Greensboro Association implores ANR to grant their petition and to prohibit that activity on Caspian Lake. There's no demand on Caspian Lake for it, but we want to act proactively, just as we did with respect to jet skis, personal watercraft. We need to act to prevent this. And I guess I'll just end with Department of Environmental Commissioner Batchelder at that video, if you could show it. Okay. And again, focusing on it's not a normal use and it doesn't belong on Caspian Lake. This was at the Legislative Committee on Administrative Rules when they adopted the rule that exists now. This is a question put by the state senators to the commissioner and his response on whether wake boats are a normal use on the lakes of Vermont.
I think we might have to end it there.
Can you just play that?
I do have a question for the commissioner, and that is, I guess we've had some conversation around normal use, and I guess my question is, does ANR consider wake boats normal?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jason Batchelder, DEC Commissioner. For the record, boats operating in Wakesports mode, to our view, do not meet the definition under the UPW of normal use.
Thank you.
Way to make an entrance.
Hi, I'm Stu Arnold, co-chair with Joanne, who's going to speak in a moment, of our Lakes and Environmental Stewardship Greensboro Association. I am here in support of our petition to ban wake boats and wake sports from Caspian Lake. Our organizers here know me well and my passion for Caspian Lake. I wear a lot of hats and sometimes waders to protect our lake. As a greeter program coordinator with Kim Jensen, lay monitoring, Trib La Rosa monitoring with Mark Mitchell, lake leveling with Ben Green, Hardwick Electric, Eric Hansen, and Eloise, we protect loons, Lakewise with Allison, and decontamination stations with Olin Reed with the Lake Champlain Basin program. This represents thousands of hours, tens of thousands of dollars to care for our lake in Precious Lake over 10 years' time that I've been doing it. It has been going on for 30 years total with others. There'll be others speaking today about their passion and volunteerism. There are these biologists and environmentalists that are working on the state, county, and federal levels that support us. And in all of that, that's hundreds of thousands of dollars of shared taxpayer expense to protect our lake. And they're doing that for yours as well. Thank you. Wake boats are a threat to all of this hard work and this investment to keep Caspian at an A1 class level lake, a home for returning pairs of loons and their 15 other friends, keeping our lake free of aquatic invasive species and maintaining clean water for swimming and other recreation. When I heard 10 plus wakeboat owners themselves say there are no inland lakes in Vermont big enough to have ocean-sized waves, and that they would support a ban on all lakes except Champlain, I knew we did not want them on Caspian. Wakeboats are a threat to our native trout and angler safety while fishing. Wakeboats are a threat to the peace and quality we provide by banning personal watercraft years ago. We have no wakeboats now. We want no wakeboats in the future. Thank you.
Right. So next up, we have Kathy Irwin, followed by Joanne Hanowski. Kathy's online?
I am
All right.
online. I'm Kathy Irwin, and I support the ban for wakeboating on Caspian Lake. I have been enjoying summers on beautiful Caspian Lake with my family since 1979. My concerns about wakeboating on Caspian include the degradation of the lake's water quality, the sediment containing phosphorus that wakeboat propellers stir up can encourage toxic cyanobacteria blooms, and the ballast tanks on wakeboats cannot be fully drained, leading to the possibility of invasive species entering the water. There's an adverse effect on all wildlife. Specifically, the large wakeboat waves impact our fragile population of breeding loons, increasing the possibility of swamping the nest. The nest is currently at a spot on Caspian Lake. Caspian's kind of a figure 8, so it has a narrower section in the middle. That's where the loon nest is. The loons on our lake loons on any lake can pop up anywhere, which could lead to loon deaths caused by colliding with motorboats. I will go to Richie's point of the conflict with the normal uses of Caspian Lake, which include, of course, peace and quiet. These are noisy boats. The impact of 3 or 4 foot waves, even when 500 or 1,000 feet away, generated on the lake shore, especially on that narrow part of the lake. And the list that Richie gave us of all the quiet entertainment activities, swimming, kayaking, etc. I'll add in there bird watching, and as my grandchildren do, just plain playing in the water. One wakeboat can interrupt or ruin the enjoyment of all these activities for a multitude of people. A ban on wakeboats will help us preserve and protect our lake as much as possible for today and for the quiet enjoyment of future generations. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Joanne Hanowski, followed by Becky Arnold.
Hi, my name is Joanne Hanowski, and I co-chair the Stewards of the Greensboro Watersheds of the Greensboro Association with Stu. And since our inception and many years before, we have been partners with Lakes and Ponds personnel on a number of initiatives that support our clean water agenda. Caspian Lake deserves special exemption to ban wakeboat usage because it is a rare resource and it's threatened. The state recognizes that Caspian Lake has unique water qualities and asked us to petition to reclassify Caspian as A1. We are one of 5 lakes that have completed that petition. Our state and federal government recognize that the increasing trend in phosphorus threatens the A1 status of Caspian Lake and has invested heavily in programs that will mitigate these increase. These investments include the Caspian Lake Watershed Action Plan, Lakewise and Streamwise. In addition to the state's concern, the town of Greensboro is one of a handful of municipalities that is self-regulating in regard to the shoreline protection laws. The stewards have worked with the town to repair road segments, and we've initiated Adopt a Culvert program to prevent road damage from block culverts. Caspian Lake is experiencing new and multiple stressors that could lead to an increase in phosphorus and the loss of one of Vermont's rare oligotrophic lakes. One of these potential stressors comes from wakeboat use. We are steadfastly attempting to reduce phosphorus with our current initiatives, but we can't control all these new stressor inputs. For example, climate change and the rainfall events that we've had in the past have led to an increase in phosphorus at times of a factor of 10. The state offers special protection for its rare, threatened, endangered species and ecosystems. Caspian Lake is a rare ecosystem and is threatened by increasing phosphorus. It deserves the same special protection that the state gives to the bignose thrush and other rare, threatened, endangered species and ecosystems.
Up next is Becky Arnold, followed by Eric Hansen.
Sorry, Becky couldn't be here tonight. She asked me to cover for her, my spouse. Becky writes, I am a distant shore swimmer in Caspian and paddler. Our family enjoys kayaking, stand-up boarding, sunfish sailing, swimming, water skiing. We also invest a large share of our family energy in lake protection, collecting water samples, managing greeter program, setting out loon signs, taking the active role in our lake association. We consider water safety, lake protection, our personal responsibility on behalf of our lake community. Our lake over the years has become more quiet than motorized. All of these activities work well together, including a handful of water skiers occasionally. The introduction to wake boats, which we don't have, with their ballast tanks and huge waves, will not be welcomed on Caspian's small. Their size, speed, gigantic waves will threaten the enjoyment of swimmers, sailors, rowers, and are not a compatible use. Underwater disruption of fish, kick up lake bottom, phosphorus is a huge threat. We've invested years and decades of monitoring and protecting. Your agency is charged with protecting Vermont lakes. Please partner with us as we have partnered with you. She also saw something I found after Tuesday night when Averill Lakes presented. They talked about Governor Scott's proclamation. July was Lake Appreciation Month in Vermont. And it says here, Vermont recognized the need to protect ecological integrity, natural resiliency of these lakes and ponds for future generations. I ask that we do that. We follow the guidance of our governor. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, up next we've got Eric Hansen, followed by James Fredericks.
Hello, my name is Eric Hansen. I'm the biologist for the Vermont Center for Eco Studies. I've spent the past 32 years studying common loons and have been fortunate to witness what is arguably one of the Vermont's most outstanding conservation success stories. I'm speaking this evening in support of the petitions requesting that wake sports be prohibited on Caspian Lake, Lake Fairlee, Waterbury Reservoir, and Joe's Pond. I'm concerned that the current rule doesn't adequately address risks to loons posed by wake sports on the lakes in question. Loons' nests are usually located 2 to 8 inches above the water level. Even when adhering to the current 500-foot buffer, a wake boat has the equivalent impact that a standard motorboat would from just 50 feet away, producing a wave at least 5 to 6 inches tall. Waves of this height could flood the 15 or so loon nests that are currently directly exposed to wake sport zones, causing nest failure. Loons sometimes move their nests from year to year, and new loons form, especially on larger lakes in recent years. Thus, it is important to protect not only current loon nesting sites, but all lake shorelines as potential nest sites. I am also concerned about the long-term impact wake sports will have on shorelines and shallow areas. Increased waves will promote shoreline erosion and decreased flood resilience. For loons and other aquatic life, erosion increases water sedimentation, turbidity, and nutrient loads, all of which decrease visibility, feeding success, and survival rates. In Wisconsin, loon chick survival has decreased over the past 25 years, in part because of increases in lake turbidity. Finally, I worry about the difficulties of enforcing regulated distances of operation. It only takes one boat straying closer to shore to flood a nest. Wake boats that get closer than the 500-foot buffer could produce waves in excess of 8 to 10 inches, which will wash out loon nests and definitely contribute to more erosion and overall decrease in water quality. Wake sports are an additional stressor on loons, other wildlife, and lake water quality. That's why I urge the ANR to move forward with restricting wake sports entirely on Caspian Lake, Lake Fairlee, Waterbury Reservoir, and Joe's Pond. I will provide details about each lake in written testimony. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so we have James Fredericks, followed by David Kelly.
Hi, my name is Jim Fredericks. I'm a resident of Greensboro. My wife and I compete on a national level in kayaking, and Caspian Lake is where we usually train. Caspian Lake is unique in comparison to other Vermont lakes. It is one of the cleanest bodies of water in Vermont and one of the few lakes without invasive species. The water is so clear that you can see 35 feet below the surface on many days. Another unique feature of Caspian Lake is that there are very few motorboats except for the visiting fishermen. With few motorboats and pristine water quality, Caspian Lake has become a mecca for long-distance swimmers, kayakers, SUPs, and other non-motorized crafts that utilize the entire lake for recreation. By allowing wake boats on Caspian Lake, an extremely dangerous safety issue is created. Due to the size of the waves created by a wake boat, all other non-motorized users and fishermen would be at risk of serious injury or drowning by swamping or capsizing their craft. For swimmers, the danger is much worse due to the lack of a wake boat's visibility created by the higher than normal bow when in wake boat mode. Vermont law states that a motorboat must not be within 200 feet of any other vessel traveling at more than 5 miles per hour and or creating a wake. The problem here is the large number of non-motorized boats and swimmers who use all areas of the lake. By allowing the use of wake boats on Caspian Lake, the state of Vermont is creating an extremely dangerous situation. The 200-foot law is great, but who is there to enforce it? Do we need to have a serious injury or even a death to keep the wake boats off Caspian Lake? Please take this issue very seriously by eliminating the hazardous scenario and ban wake boats on Caspian Lake.
All right, next we have David Kelly, followed by William Berman.
Hi, my name is Dave Kelly, and I'm here on behalf of the Greensboro Select Board. I don't think it's any secret that the Northeast Kingdom has been one of the most, probably the most economically disadvantaged corner in the state of Vermont. That's changing because we now have a new emerging agricultural economy. That agricultural economy is extremely dependent on the quiet solitude, the tranquility, and the water quality of Lake Caspian. It is those qualities that bring people from New York and Boston and Washington, D.C. and Montreal. They buy our products, and they go home and they promote our products. And some of the evidence of how important that is the fact that Jasper Hill Cheese now employs about 100 people. That economic asset is incredibly important to us. And the partnership between our economy and the environmental quality of our lakes is essential to our future. When we put wake boats on Lake Caspian, we gamble, and we don't feel like we're rich enough to be gambling. We need to protect the partnership we're developing between this new emerging agricultural economy and our extremely precious and pristine waters. So we urge you to adopt the petition. I brought with me over 1,000 signatures of our friends and neighbors who want to echo the plea of our select board, and I'd like to leave those with you. Thank you.
All right, next we have William Berman. Oh, you're reading for William? Okay, that's fine. Many hats. And then followed by William is Kevin Johnson.
Yeah, hi.
Bill Berman and his wife Liz Wright. We're writing to support the prohibition of wake boats on Caspian Lake. We are year-round residents of Caspian. This year we both trained for outdoor swim marathons. We're avid long-distance swimmers. We spend countless time swimming in Caspian Lake. As such, we're familiar with its use. Wakeboarding would be completely out of place. The vast majority of users do so because of its non-motorized craft is the dominant sport. Kayaks, canoes, sailboats, or just swimming. Caspian's is peaceful. Wakeboarding would disturb this peace. Most of the times we're swimming. We are very cognizant where boats are on the lake. We use orange buoys so they can see us, but really never trust that alone and always stick close to shore. Motorboats don't always stick to the middle of the lake and often cross right in front of us while swimming. Boats that concern us most are pulling skiers and those driving sometimes look back at their skiers for extended times. Adding more powerful ski wake boats to the lake would be dangerous to swimmers. Wake boats also pose an environmental hazard, and many of those were stated before. I won't read all of what he wrote because they duplicate. But he just stresses again, please consider what was done for jet skis on Caspian. The same logic should apply to wake boats. Allowing wake boats in Caspian would be like allowing jet skis in a public swimming pool. It might be physically possible, but it would be dangerous, environmentally hazardous, and would prevent those from always using this beautiful resource and enjoying it as it has for generations. Thank you.
Thank you. So next we have Kevin Johnson. Are you online, Kevin? Okay. Another call for Kevin? Okay, well, we can come back and give Kevin another chance if he shows up. Next we have Chris Steele. And followed by Chris Steele is John Schweizer.
I am speaking on behalf of Chris Steele and his written comments. I'll read. I am writing in support of the petition to ban wake boats from Caspian Lake. I am a resident of Greensboro. I live on the shore of Caspian Lake. I am a signatory of the petition that we just submitted to you guys and agree with every aspect of that petition, both as summarized in the synopsis and in the detailed arguments presented. When the lake is not frozen, its normal use by the many, which I observe every day, is for kayaking, sculling, paddleboarding, more recently, fishing with or without a trolling motor, sailing and swimming in a rich habitat of diverse wildlife. There is also occasional motorboat use with people enjoying water skiing in the middle of the lake in the calm of the morning and evening. All of those activities can be safely undertaken without disrupting others. Wakeboarding by the few has the potential to significantly disrupt the safe enjoyment of Caspian Lake by the many and should be banned, as was done with the jet skis in the past. Thank you. And I just want to add that Chris is a steward and has spent hundreds of hours on our Streamwise program, and resulting in the planting of over 500 trees, and his personal attack on some knapweed.
Thanks. All right, so next we have John Schweizer. Okay. All right, and followed by Peter Romans.
And Peter's not, I don't think he'll be able to do it.
Okay.
So John Schweitzer, another good friend and year-round resident of Caspian and Greensboro. 42 years, he's observed Caspian being enjoyed by fishermen, sailboaters, canoeists, kayakers, swimmers. He also does a lot with ice skating when the lake is covered 4 months of the year. He strongly favors prohibiting wake boats in their sport on Caspian for the following reasons. They will endanger kayakers, canoeists. Giant wave surface environment will change the character of our lake surface, thus reducing the quality of recreation experiences for swimmers, sailors, anglers, canoeists, kayakers. The downward prop wash of wake boats will ultimately stir up sediment bottoms. And even in the middle of the lake, I'm paraphrasing what he was going to say here. There is an effect of that down prop wash in even the deeper portions. The giant wave boats will impact the lake shore environmental zone and upsetting soils, plants, animals, and neighboring marine life. The newly created wake boat regulation is not enforceable, he writes. This is due to the impossibility of delineating the operation zones of 200 feet, 500 feet, 1,000 feet. It's really hard to tell what those distances are on the surface. And plus a lack of a policing system. Thank you.
All right. Peter Romans? Okay, so not online, probably. Okay. I do think I figured out how to turn off my notifications. Okay. Okay. So, okay. Yeah. Okay. So Peter Romans, no, not here. John Stone, not available. Okay. All right. Next we have Jesse McArdle, followed by June Bascom.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, so that's just for people online.
Oh, okay.
Project to the room.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, thank you for the opportunity to speak here tonight. My name is Jesse McArdle. I'm representing the National Marine Manufacturers Association. We're the premier trade association for the recreational boating industry. Our members encompass over 85% of the domestic boat, marine engine, trailer, and accessory manufacturers. And before starting, I'd just like to mention quickly that the boating industry is a critical piece of Vermont's economic sector. Contributing $426.4 million annually to the economy and supporting over 1,900 jobs and sustaining 90 small businesses. I'm here today to urge the agency to not move forward with the 4 petitions before you. I'll keep my comments pretty general and high level to all 4 of the petitions. Over the last 2 years, NMMA has engaged heavily with the agency and advocates on all sides to develop the new water sports rule that was enacted in April, in which requires towed water sports enthusiasts to operate in at least 20 feet depth of water in zones that are 50 contiguous acres and at least 500 feet from shoreline. And it's worth noting, too, that the standard that was agreed to does go well beyond the standards that are recommended at the national level by NASLA, which is the National Association of State Boating Law Administrators. And while we were disappointed in this end rule, we do thoroughly respect the agency's process that they undertook, and we do remain committed to supporting your ongoing efforts. However, it is somewhat concerning that we're here already after we, have yet to make it through really kind of the entire first boating season with these rules on the books. And we do believe that it is important for the agency to sort of have the time to fully assess the effectiveness and just overall, applicability of the current rules that are on the books. And to also evaluate those impacts before moving forward. So thank you for the time very much.
Thank you. Did you, just to clarify, did you want this comment to apply to each
Yes.
comment section?
Yes,
Okay.
we'll be submitting written comments.
Okay, because I saw your name on the other lakes, so we'll just, if anybody is planning to comment for multiple lakes, I'm saying this for everybody, we can just let us know if you plan to have it apply to each petition. Okay, thank you. Okay, next we have June Bascom, followed by Danny Kelman.
I'm online.
Okay, great.
Yeah, okay. My name is June Bascom. I live in Montpelier, previously year-round resident in Greensboro, and I'm a 4th generation user of Caspian Lake. It's the responsibility of the Agency of Natural Resources to protect, maintain, enhance, restore, and the quality of Vermont's surface water resources. Wake boats, however, fundamentally conflict with ecologically responsible and safe public waters. By allowing any wake boat on Caspian, ANR is disregarding their obligation to be responsible stewards of lakes and streams. The town of Greensboro, the Greensboro Association, and the stewards of Greensboro watersheds have put in place the following initiatives to preserve the quality of Caspian and the surrounding watershed. All of the following activities are supported by ANR. A&R tests water quality monitoring samples collected by volunteer lay monitors to track levels of chlorophyll, phosphorus, and water clarity. A&R helps fund the beach greeter program and trains volunteers to ensure boats and trailers are free of aquatic invasive species before being launched. A&R provides technical assistance and assessments through the LakeWise program to help lakeshore property owners follow best management practices to protect lakes. A&R awards certificates to properties that meet healthy shoreline criteria. To date, 18 properties on Caspian have received LakeWise certificates. Actions taken by Greensboro volunteers positively impact feeder streams and downstream waterways in support of A&R's funded Lake Champlain Watershed Streamwise program. Given these many highly effective A&R initiatives, how can A&R allow boats on Caspian, which by their very design and function, seriously and irreversibly negatively impact water quality, lake bed habitat, shoreline integrity, and the safety of waterfowl, swimmers, and boaters? A&R cannot meet the wishes of all people when there are serious conflicting interests. Therefore, it's A&R's responsibility to meet the needs of the overwhelming majority of lake users and of the lakes themselves so they remain clean, healthy, safe bodies of water. Only a complete ban of wake boats on Caspian can accomplish this. Thank you for the opportunity to comment, and I'm going to be submitting a longer version online. Thank you.
Thanks. All right, so next we have Danny Kelman, followed by Phil Dodd. Danny's online? All right, another. Danny, if you are talking, we can't hear you. Okay. I will be coming back to opportunities for people to comment later. So if people log off and log back in, we can, get everybody who wants to be heard. All right, so next we have Phil Dodd, followed by John Rogers.
Thank you. My name is Phil Dodd, and I reside in Montpelier. I do not own property on Caspian, though I have often rented there for a week or two in the summer. I also visit Caspian on summer day trips to use my small pack canoe and sunfish sailboat. Wake boats can create large rogue waves. A sudden big wave could easily capsize me and fill my canoe with water. The same could happen to my 8-year-old granddaughter, who has her own kayak that she uses on Caspian. My sunfish is also vulnerable to large waves. The responsiveness summary published as part of last year's wakeboat rulemaking anticipated future lake-specific wakeboat petitions such as this one. It stated, quote, "The agency expects that such petitions will demand particular focus on aquatic recreation and related safety planning, areas where current agency staff does not have deep professional expertise. Therefore, in preparation for consideration of water body specific petitions, the agency will explore retaining services of consultants with relevant expertise." In essence, the agency admitted it has little expertise regarding safety, a topic it avoided in the statewide wakeboat rule. Has professional expertise now been obtained to review this petition and others? Safety is something the agency is required to consider. The statute authorizing the use of public water rules, 10 VSA 1421, says, quote, "The purpose of the rules shall be to further the maintenance of safe and healthful conditions," unquote. Caspian is perhaps the top sailing lake wholly within the borders of the state, and it attracts a large number of people who bring kayaks and paddleboards for the day. The motorboats used on the lake are often outnumbered by sailboats and kayaks and are generally not large. Wakeboats are not a normal use on Caspian now, and I hope they never become so. Please protect the traditional uses of the lake, consider the safety and enjoyment of the many small boat owners who use the lake, and grant this petition. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so next online we have John Rogers.
Hello, and thank you. I did not intend to testify tonight as I testified in Newport, but I was asked by several people from Caspian to weigh in here as well. I am here to support the petition to ban wake boats on Caspian and all 9 petitions, and in fact would propose a ban on all Vermont inland lakes until A&R has time to implement home rule, deploy decontamination sites, and figure out what size lake is appropriate for wake boats. A&R has not done enough to stop the spread of AIS around the state. The environmental damage that could be caused by the wake boats waves is enough to ban them for now, but the risk of the spread of AIS is truly unacceptable. I served for 16 years in the legislature and worked on many pieces of legislation starting in 2003 trying to stop the spread of various aquatic nuisance species. And I think we have to do everything we can to be sure that they are not spreading. And for all of our small inland lakes, they haven't been using those lakes up to this point. So there is no harm in asking them not to use them now. And I think we as a state need to study the issue more. And I think it's unacceptable. And I think we have to go beyond wake boats. We have to look at fishermen's live wells. We have to look at better enforcement, giving the greeters more authority. We've literally had people pull into Shadow Lake with milfoil hanging off their boat and drive by the wash station in the greeters. And this is all unacceptable. We cannot risk more aquatic nuisance species to be spread around our state and our lakes that don't have it. So thank you very much for allowing me the time.
Thank you. Next, we have Christine Armstrong, I believe also joining us from Teams. Christine Armstrong? Right. If you're speaking, we can't hear you. You're muted. But... Okay. See her name on the Teams.
Does this work?
Yes.
Oh, yay. Okay. Sorry.
All right. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm a Caspian Lake resident and founding member of the stewards of the watershed, Greensboro watersheds. And I really just had one simple question. We've been working very hard here. I think everyone has been doing a lovely job explaining their concerns.
Uh-oh, you're muted again. We can't hear you, Christine. Okay.
The little microphone.
Yeah, I don't know if you were able to unmute yourself. Let me see if I can. I can't unmute her. Okay. Well, I'm sorry that that's not working out. Yeah, we can come back. So that was the end of the list of folks who signed up to speak for Caspian. If anybody else would like to make a comment. Oh, somebody, Rusty. Okay, Rusty, please, you may unmute and make a comment.
Yeah, yes, hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, my name's Rusty Newhouse. In one form or another, I've had a summer home on Caspian for almost 60 years. And I want to speak on behalf of the sailors and the sailboat races that have kind of been rejuvenated over the past several years. On any given Wednesday or Saturday or another day, if we don't have wind and have to change to another day, there can be up to 30 boats out sailing on Caspian Lake racing. And quite often we're strung out from one end of the lake to the other and one side to the other, making it generally impossible. I know we make it difficult for water skiers. I'm saying it would be impossible for wakeboarders to share the lake with us. And I second all of the other reasons that everyone has given and appreciate their time and effort in doing so. But I just wanted to put in a plug for the one more really good reason that it is not only bad for the lake, but it's very impractical to think that those boats could be used at the same time that so many of the other activities, including the sailboat races, are happening. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else in the room that would like to speak for Caspian? Okay. Anybody else online? Oh, Christine, would you like to try again? Okay. Well, we will move on to the Fairlee portion of this meeting, and again, we'll check back in to see if other people want to make comments. And I also just want to remind everyone that if you don't have a chance to speak tonight, please submit some comments. Please submit your comments in writing. Okay. Thank you. Tom, right? Okay, Tom Ward, you may take it away. Oh, yes, sorry.
Thanks very much. Hello, my name is Tom Ward. I'm a member of the Lake Fairlee Association, and our family has owned property on Lake Fairlee for over 50 years. And I'm a full-time resident of Thetford, one of the towns bordering Lake Fairlee. The petitioners have asked me to present tonight's overview. Lake Fairlee is unique among Vermont's inland lakes because it has been the home of numerous summer camps for well over a century. The 5 camps operating today host young children every summer who, along with their parents and camp directors, expect and deserve a safe water sports experience. The presence of giant wake boats creating ocean-sized waves for a tiny niche group of surfers threatens the safety of all lake users. ANR acknowledged in adopting its statewide rule that it did not adequately address the issue of safety resulting from the practice of wake sports. In addition to safety, the Lake Fairlee community is concerned for the local economy, which is dependent in large part on the success of the summer camps, and likely to suffer if wake sports are not adequately addressed. This petition is widely supported by Lake Fairlee's many stakeholders. The Lake Fairlee Association, all 5 summer camps, and the select boards of all 3 towns surrounding the lake, Thetford, Fairlee, and West Fairlee, are co-petitioners. The vast majority of Lake Fairlee Association members support it, the local boat dealer supports it, the local conservation commission support it, and the committee overseeing the public beach supports it. Representatives of the wake boat industry may speak against this petition. Are they Vermonters? Since our local boat dealer supports this petition, the industry has little stake in this local conflict. To be clear, if the requested rule is implemented, wake boat owners will continue to enjoy their boats for normal uses on the lake. We urge the ANR to resist the temptation to give any weight to the industry's position. For the following reasons, petitioners respectfully request that the ANR exercise its rulemaking authority to amend the Vermont Use of Public Water Rules by adding a lake-specific Lake Fairlee rule as follows, quote, wake sports are prohibited, end quote. The adoption of this rule will help protect and honor longstanding traditional normal uses of Lake Fairlee for current and future generations. Why should wake sports be prohibited on Lake Fairlee? Here are 5 of the many compelling reasons. Reason 1, the unique camping history of Lake Fairlee and the location of the wake sports zone. Once known as, quote, the camping center of the world, unquote, Lake Fairlee is still home to 5 thriving summer camps. For well over a century, campers as young as 5 years old have come to learn and enjoy the normal water sports of swimming, paddling, sailing, fishing, water skiing, and other sports as a core part of their summer camp experience. The DEC's attempt at a one-size-fits-all rule, 500 feet from shore and 20 feet deep, places Lake Fairlee's wake sports zone directly offshore of 4 of the lake's 5 summer camps, as you can see on the map up here. Placing it here did not consider Lake Fairlee's unique summer camp situation. The Use of Public Water Rules section 2.2a states that an important factor ANR is required to consider when evaluating petitions is, quote, the predominant use of the waters prior to regulation. Campers engaged in traditional normal water sports have long been a predominant use of this area. This is likely one of the greatest densities of inexperienced boaters and swimmers in all of Vermont. Parents entrust the safety of their children to these summer camps. 1,800 campers come to the lake every summer to enjoy traditional water sports. Artificial 3 to 5 foot waves produced by wake boats create dangerous conditions for campers both near the shore and out in the middle of the lake. The location of the water sport zone right in the middle of the camp's water recreation area invites user conflicts and jeopardizes the safety of young children. This situation is unique to Lake Fairlee. Wake sports and the user conflicts they present are relatively new to Lake Fairlee and are anticipated to grow more common and dangerous as time goes on. To protect the safety of campers, A&R must prohibit wake sports on Lake Fairlee. Prohibiting wake sports is the only way to resolve the conflict that they cause. Reason number 2, A&R's failure to consider lake user safety when drafting the statewide rule. The Vermont Use of Public Water Rules, Section 2.2b, requires safety to be a consideration in managing the state's public waters. In the responsiveness summary for the statewide wake boat rulemaking, the agency states, quote, current agency staff does not have deep professional expertise, and thus they did not consider safety in its rulemaking. Now they must. Can you name a sport where passersby are subject to equal or greater injury than the athletes engaged in that sport? Where danger silently approaches and then hits, literally can hit you. Paddlers, sailors, swimmers, anglers, etc. have not knowingly accepted the risk that wake sports pose. While engaged in wake sports, wake boats are allowed to operate within 200 feet of others on the water. At 200 feet, wake sports create silently approaching waves as high as 16 inches. Compare this with a typical freeboard of a kayak at 7 inches, a canoe at 10, and a typical small fishing boat at 12 inches. These wakes threaten all lake users, not only campers. In addition to the giant waves wake boats create, their bow-up orientation makes it hard to spot people in the water. This impaired forward visibility further threatens lake user safety. Each summer, over 1,500 boats trailer to Lake Fairlee's public boat launch. Almost half come to fish, while others come to paddle, sail, water ski, swim, enjoy the solitude, and more. Extremely few come to wake sport. Lake Fairlee has a public beach and hosts fishing tournaments. Long-distance swimmers of all ages have appreciated the safe use of the lake for decades. Suddenly, wake sports appeared, threatening the safety and enjoyment of these activities. When a wake boat motors out to the wake sport zone, other users retreat in fear, forced to avoid for their safety a significant part of the lake. Wake sports wakes on Lake Fairlee have already capsized kayaks, swamp pontoon boats, endangered swimmers, and injured people near the shoreline. Of note, none of these incidents were reported to state authorities. Reported conflicts dramatically undercount the actual number of incidents. The normal use activities enjoyed for decades by thousands of children and adults in Lake Fairlee require A&R's protection. Normal users should not be threatened by the tiny few who participate in wake sports. Prohibiting wake sports will prevent serious accidents. This is common sense. No one wants a small child's injury or worse. To finally make this point clear. Reason number 3, negative economic impact. Lake Fairlee's camps are entrusted with camper safety and enjoyment. If the camps on Lake Fairlee develop a reputation for dangerous and inhospitable conditions, the local economy will suffer. While the camps provide traditional summer camp experiences to over 1,800 campers annually, they generate over $6 million in annual revenue, employ over 300 staff members with a payroll of approximately $700,000, while contributing over $300,000 in local property taxes, source significant amounts of produce from local farms, and drive revenue from many other local businesses. If safety concerns impact the financial viability of the lake's camps, the local economy will clearly suffer. Reason number 4, further spreading of existing milfoil. Unfortunately, Lake Fairlee is already infested with Eurasian milfoil. Despite spending thousands of dollars annually on remediation efforts, most of a shallow, less than 20-foot deep, multi-acre perennial milfoil bed is located at the western edge of the wakesport zone. This area is mostly between 500 to 1,200 feet from shore. Even the most well-meaning wakeboat operator, accustomed to staying 500 feet from shore, may not notice that they have left the wakesport zone and entered the shallow area. With their downward prop wash and lower prop, wakeboats fragment and spread milfoil very effectively. Reason number 5, in 1998, the Lake Fairlee Association petitioned the Water Resource Board to prohibit personal watercraft, more commonly known as jet skis. Agreeing that jet skis were inappropriate for Lake Fairlee, the Water Resources Board granted the petition and explained its decision was, quote, based largely on the conclusion that the use of personal watercraft is not a normal use on Lake Fairlee, and if allowed to become a common use, would result in a level of conflict with other established uses that are not in the public interest. Wake sports are inherently more dangerous and disruptive than jet skis. Like jet skis, wake sports are not a normal use. There is no justifiable reason to allow wake sports on Lake Fairlee. ANR, please prohibit wake sports on Lake Fairlee. Lake Fairlee is unique among Vermont lakes and deserves special protection. Please act swiftly so this new rule can be implemented before the 2025 camping and boating season begins. Time is of the essence, especially where safety is concerned. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, first up we have Ronald Scott, followed by Jane Chambers.
Hi, I'm here. I'm having a little bit of internet issues, so it might break up a little bit. But my name is Ron Scott, and for 75 years, our family has operated summer camps in Maine and Vermont. And in 2012, we became the owners and operators of Camp Lochern on Lake Fairlee. Lochern has a long history on the lake and has operated continuously since 1916. Water sports are and always have been among the most popular camp activities, with campers enjoying paddling, sailing, swimming, and water skiing. The camp's location makes it difficult for campers to avoid the new Wakesports zone, which is located directly off the camp's shore. Picture a 7-year-old camper learning to kayak, sail, or canoe, having their boat swamped by a 3 to 5 foot wave while paddling a few hundred feet from shore. This is not fun. It is dangerous. As camp owners, we are charged with our campers' safety above all else. Injury to a camper, of course, would be personally devastating, but also could cause a significant financial difficulty, which in turn would impact the town of Thetford, where we are one of the largest taxpayers. We also employ many local residents, support many local businesses by purchasing food staples from local farms, building supplies from local suppliers, and our visiting parents stay at local hotels and inns and shop at local businesses. All would be impacted in a major way if the camp were to have a significant accident on the water. Factors ANR must consider when evaluating petitions include the water's previous uses and recreational uses. Camper water sports have been a predominant normal recreational use on Lake Fairlee for over 100 years. Newly arrived wake sports have been determined by the ANR not to be a normal use. The traditional normal use of the lake enjoyed by many should be prioritized over the enjoyment of the very few wake surfers. We are asking that you please prohibit wake sports on Lake Fairlee to preserve our campers' safe enjoyment of water sports and the camp's contribution to the local economy. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Jane Chambers, followed by Alyssa Godeski.
Thank you. Hello, I'm Jane Wilson Chambers, retired teacher, and have lived on and visited Lake Fairlee for 50 years, moving there full-time in 2000, but the first time in 1974 when my father became the first full-time manager of Treasure Island, which is the town of Thetford's public beach. I've enjoyed the lake personally and professionally for these 50 years. I've taught swimming at Treasure Island over about 20 years, part-time when I visited in the summer months. I enjoy swimming myself, long distance, kayaking, canoeing, fishing, and paddle boarding, water skiing. I've been a past president of the Lake Fairlee Association, and I'm concerned for the safety of lake users, both young and old, given that the waves are so high from wake boats. I've had to get out of the lake this past summer a couple of times with my young dog because of waves coming over to the beach that I swim from. I think the waves of the wakeboards are dangerous for the normal users of the lake that have been outlined by the other speakers before me. I've had to pull kids out of the water due to the smaller waves from water ski boards over the years at Treasure Island. I can't understand how Wakesports could possibly take priority over the safety and enjoyment of all the other users of the lake. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so we have Alyssa Godeski, followed by Catherine Babbitt.
Hello, my name is Alyssa Godeski. I live about 3 miles from Lake Fairlee in West Fairlee. My husband and I moved to West Fairlee 2.5 years ago, and we were drawn to the area by the opportunity for a little bit of acreage and close proximity to resources like Lake Fairlee for recreation. I've raced as a professional triathlete for the last 10 years, and in that time, I've raced 39 Ironman triathlons. Each includes a 2.4 mile open water swim. I've swum all over the world in just about every condition imaginable throughout my racing and training. Overnight in the Swedish archipelago, in the ocean off the coast of South Africa, and this past summer, I swam 88 miles in Lake Fairlee alone. What makes open water swimming dangerous is unpredictable conditions, and it is my belief that allowing wake sports on Lake Fairlee creates unpredictable conditions for others recreating on the lake. Last summer, during a routine afternoon swim, I encountered a wake created from a wake boat engaging in wake sports. I felt unsafe, like I couldn't be seen despite my neon pink safety buoy, and immediately returned to a small pocket of the lake where I could be protected from the conditions. For the remainder of the summer, I largely avoided swimming in afternoon hours, which would increase my odds of encountering such wakes again. I believe that many of the recreators on Lake Fairlee do not have the swimming expertise and skillfulness that I do to remain safe in the waters while wake sports are being engaged. As a professional athlete, I can appreciate the sporting aspect of wake boats and wake sports, but I feel they are meant for larger lakes, not a lake like Lake Fairlee, whose swimmers, kayakers, and paddlers consist largely of young kids attending summer camps. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. All right. Please remain muted if line. It causes feedback in our room. Thank you. Next, we have Catherine Babbitt, followed by Sally Stager.
Hi, I'm Catherine Babbitt from Thetford Center and a board member of the Lake Fairlee Association. I've been coming to the lake for over 50 years and always enjoy the singing, laughter, and bugle sounds from the nearby camps. Summer camps have existed on the lake for over a century, and Lake Fairlee was once known as the camping center of the world. Because of our thriving summer camps, Lake Fairlee is truly unique. Our wake sports zone is surrounded by 4 summer camps and a public boat launch. Really? The state's one-size-fits-all rule does not work for Lake Fairlee, and that is why many of us are here today. Allowing wake sports near multiple summer camps and a public boat ramp is not a good idea. The large waves create hostile environment for anyone, especially young, inexperienced campers trying to learn and enjoy traditional, normal water sports. The DEC has already declared that wake sports are not a normal use. Picture a bunch of 10-year-old campers learning to sail, kayak, or water ski when water sports and their 3 to 5 foot waves are only 200 feet away. This is very dangerous. Wake boats have already caused injury and accidents on our lake. Their large waves have flipped kayaks and swamped a pontoon boat with my 93-year-old godmother and her husband on board. In both cases, the wake boat captain cruised on, oblivious to the chaos and danger resulting from his large wake. None of these incidents were reported to the overworked and overstaffed Fish and Game warden. This petition is a powerful example of community unity. As co-petitioners, the select boards of Fairlee, West Fairlee, and Thetford, 5 summer camps, and the overwhelming majority of the Lake Fairlee Association board and its members speak with one voice. For the safety of our many campers, please prohibit wake sports on Lake Fairlee.
Sorry about the call. Oh, that's okay. All right. Next, we have Sally Stager, followed by Stephen Toffel.
Great. Thank you. Good evening. Can you hear okay?
Yes.
Great, thank you. I'm Sally Stager, and I want to speak briefly on behalf of my husband and myself. We have a camp on Lake Fairlee and have enjoyed this jewel of a lake for the last 10 years, but we currently support the petition to ban wake boats. Just earlier this summer, we had really the blessing of having our 3 children from California and our 3 grandchildren come. And while we were playing at the shoreline with the 2 little babies in the water and their buckets and their shovels, a giant wave came through and we had to scrabble to grab the kids and the buckets before that wave slammed into the shoreline. And our property is not even near or in front of the wake boat zone. I think this highlights the fact that it is an extremely difficult rule to monitor and to enforce. And I think that all of the properties in the areas on the lake are at risk. Most importantly, we enjoy so much having the public come through the public boat launch and enjoy the lake and the beautiful camps that surround the lake, the sounds of the children, the kayaks, the canoes, the sailfishes. But let me tell you, those campers are not seaworthy kids. And it does not take much. In fact, it doesn't take anything at all but a small puff of wind or a misplaced oar for those kids to topple into the water. I really fear what will happen as the wake boats and the large wakes continue to pummel the area right in front of the camps and really threaten the safety of the children and the viability and economic survivability of the camps. So my husband and I join the 3 towns that have signed this petition and all 5 camps, and we urge you to ban wake boats on Lake Fairlee. Thank you.
All right, next we've got Stephen Toffel, followed by Lee Shen.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
My name's Steve Toffel, and I am a member of the Thetford Select Board. And I wanted to comment on this tonight. One of the problems of being down on the list of speakers is that everybody has taken all of your best points ahead of you. But I do want to point out that obviously I'm concerned about the environmental aspects of wake boating. But more important, and has been pointed out, we have 5 major camps on the lake. These are some of our largest taxpayers. And in addition to that, we operate a recreational center, the Treasure Island. That's the main place for kids in town to learn to swim. Many of our residents enjoy swimming there and small boating opportunities. And I think that's is truly threatened from a safety standpoint by wake boats. And so I just want to speak out strongly in favor of this petition. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next we have Lee Shen, followed by Sean Collins.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, yes, good afternoon. My name is Lee Shen, and like Steve, who just spoke, I'm a member of the Thetford Select Board, and the Select Board has joined the petition to prohibit wake sports on Lake Fairlee, as this is our local lake. Previously, the Select Board supported another rule proposed by Responsible Wakes for Vermont Lakes, which would have banned wake sports on Lake Fairlee, but that wasn't accepted. But we continue to believe wake sports do not belong here. And as has been said before, this lake and its visitors have always been an important driver of the local economy. Starting in 1906, it became one of the first lakes in Vermont to host youth summer camps. And it goes on, this continues. As we already have seen, there are 5 summer camps and over 1,800 campers and 300 staff all summer long, with children as young as 5 years old attending these camps, exactly because the lake offers safe, calm water. Also, in addition, the campers, their parents, and the camp staff allow local businesses to thrive by purchasing meals, ice cream, farm products, and other goods, as has been already said. However, the wake sports zone is smack in the middle of where the summer camps are located, and thus creates unsafe conditions for campers both in the middle and on the edge of the lake near the shore. Even at the 500-foot distance, 3 to 5 foot wakes originating from the Wakesport zone have the power to propel an adult on a surfboard. And they can certainly knock down a wading child, tip a swimming dock, and swamp young swimmers and children in watercraft who are not experienced, as has already been said. This will force the campers to give up using the middle of the lake, an area they have freely enjoyed for over a century.
We've just hit our 2 minutes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Sorry to cut anybody off. All right, next we have Sean Collins, and followed by that we have Tom Ward reading Robert Bartlett's statement.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, thank you. My name is Sean Collins, along with my wife, Annie. I'm one of the directors of Camp Billings, and we've been in operation since 1906. And since starting going to this camp back in the 90s, I have watched the lake change significantly. I'm glad the bald eagles are taking over. There's loons every day, but I've also seen campers getting knocked out of canoes with my own eyes. I had never seen that before until the past couple of years. It's up to safety for us as camp directors, and I echo Ron's comments about Lockern, and I know I commiserate with Aloha camps and Treasure Island. It's about safety for us, and I watch campers struggling to swim, and then the wake boats come. You can hear them coming before you can see them, so sometimes you get a warning, but that warning is often terrifying to young children who maybe come from inner city, Boston, New York, and have never swam before and are terrified of the lake. And here you have kids who might never swim again because that one time they tried, they were suffering. It's terrifying for a lot of these children, and that is what matters to us, is their safety and emotional safety as well. Not to mention the fact that we try to keep our camp affordable. So in our among our original mission is to keep camp affordable for campers of Vermont and New Hampshire. And as I watch our docks get smashed in ways that only happens during massive storms, that should only happen once a summer, it happens every time a wake boat comes by. It's not just down to safety, it threatens the profitability. Sorry, not profitability, we're not profit obviously, but it threatens the management of a camp at an operational level. And that is terrifying to us as directors, and we hope to prevent this from maintaining in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Tour of his house. Is Tom Ward? Oh, there you are. Okay, sorry, I lost. Okay, so you are reading Robert Bartlett's comment.
Yes.
I am not Robert Bartlett, but I'm going to say I am. My name is Robert Bartlett. I own the Fairlee Marine Boat Dealership. It is my job and livelihood to support boating. My dealership in Fairlee, Vermont is only a few miles from Lake Fairlee. After 36 years in the boating industry, I know the lake well and the boating activities that take place there. I sell many types of boats, including ski boats. I rent boats. Pontoon boats are the most popular. I don't sell wake boats. They are not appropriate for Lake Fairlee. You may hear industry representatives talk about how important boating is to the economy. On our lakes, boating, yes. Wake sports, no. A prohibition of wake sports in Lake Fairlee will not negatively impact my business one bit. Trying to force a wake sport zone using metrics for a generic lake onto Lake Fairlee, home to 5 summer camps with likely the greatest density of inexperienced boaters and swimmers in Vermont, is a fool's errand. The 500-foot distance from shore and 20-foot deep guidelines place Lake Fairlee's wake sport zone in the middle of the camp's primary water sport recreation area. This is unique among Vermont lakes. It is wrong and dangerous. Creating large wakes on small lakes creates conditions where the vast majority of users just cannot safely participate in activities that historically were fun and safe. There's no such thing as a safe zone for wakes on small lakes, as wakes will travel like a tsunami from where they were created to the shore, disrupting swimmers and craft on the water while also disturbing the natural edges of the lake. In my mind, it is just not acceptable or fair to allow the very few wake surfers to create disruptive and potentially dangerous conditions on historically peaceful waters. Large lakes such as Lake Champlain are better suited for wake sports. I feel strongly that the state must set limits for small lakes that don't simply mitigate but eliminate the disruption and danger created by wake sports. Please prohibit wake sports on Lake Fairlee. Thank you for listening.
All right, next we have Lucian Snow, followed by DC Dennison.
Yes, hi there. I'm Lucian Snow. I'm a member of the Lake Fairlee Association. As a child, my wife was a camper on at a lower hive. My family has had a home on Lake Fairlee for 18 years, and our property is certified by Lakewise. We support the proposal to ban wake boats on Lake Fairlee. We're long-distance swimmers, sailors, and kayakers enjoying many hours each week on the lake. We love the variety of activities enjoyed by campers, seniors, and everyone. Most of these activities are have a symbiotic relationship with each other, with the exception of wakeboarding. I want to relate an experience I had 3 summers ago on a friend's large pontoon boat. A group of 8 of us were on the boat, cruising at 4 to 5 miles an hour and enjoying a calm afternoon at the narrow northern end of the lake. A wake boat came by, throwing up a significant surf-sized wave. Our captain turned the boat into the wave to protect the boat from being rolled. The boat's platform is a foot above the water, yet the wave swamped the boat from bow to stern, carrying bags, towels with it. The scariest part of the experience was for the 95-year-old man in the bow who was soaked up to his knees. We immediately ended our afternoon on the lake. We were fortunate enough not to have infants or small children on the boat because they would likely have been carried away. The wakeboat captain was perhaps unaware of what happened, but did not come and check on us. Wakeboats are designed to throw up huge waves. Future designs of these boats are going to use new technology that will inevitably throw up waves of even greater size. The ANR rules will do nothing to regulate and monitor the size of these new waves. Vermont struggles to enforce most lake regulations, and I have very little faith they will be able to enforce the wakeboat rules. I ask the ANR to step up further and ban wakeboats on Lake Fairlee to protect the environmental quality of the lake and the safety of all those who enjoy its resource. Thank you.
All right, up next is DC Dennison, followed by Vanessa Riegler.
Good evening. My name is DC Dennison. I am a resident of Thetford. I am a family resident of this area since the early 50s. Thank you for listening to all of us share our passion about Lake Fairlee. My purpose for speaking today is to emphasize the importance of having access to the whole lake, and a number of us have already said this. Not just to the perimeter, which is what wakeboats on Fairlee force us to do. They push us out to the edge because it's terrifying and dangerous to fully use the lake. For that matter, I know of incidents that could have ended in loss of life, even though the people or adults were near the shore. This point is especially critical because we have so many camps with young campers who are inexperienced. They are especially vulnerable to waves with any water sport they're learning, and some are just learning to swim for the first time. Due to its size and shape, Fairlee, the whole lake, gets used by people of all ages, toddlers to seniors, who swim, row, paddle, sail, fish, etc. The activity on the lake has never been confined to just the shore. There are inlets and narrows, yes, but people have always valued being able to move out into the middle or across. And you've heard this from a previous speaker talking about doing long distance swimming. Yes, there are issues of quality of life in terms of sound, impact on the natural environment, shoreline, depth of water, and so forth. And I know you've considered these, but we're talking about Lake Fairlee here. We know this lake. We know how it is used by residents, campers, vacationers, and those who come just for the day. Fairlee has been able to hold a variety of adventures, fishing expeditions, and lazy meanderings safely. It's not too big, it's not too small, it's just right, even if it is at the limit of its use. For the variety of uses it supports now, wakeboats on Fairlee demand resources and space for few, but limit the broader use by many. Please limit the use of wakeboats on Lake Fairlee.
Thank you. Next, we have Vanessa Riegler, followed by American Bunel.
Hi, I'll be speaking on behalf of Vanessa Riegler. Hello, everyone. My name is Ross Cannon. I'm the Senior Program Director at the Aloha Foundation. We are a co-petitioner on the petition regarding wake sports on Lake Fairlee. The Aloha Foundation is a 501c3 organization that operates 5 summer camps and 1 year-round educational and leadership center. 3 of our camps are located on Lake Fairlee. Ohana Family Camp, Horizons Day Camp, and Hive, our overnight camp for younger girls, which has been in operation since 1915. We serve more than 1,450 campers of all ages each summer on Lake Fairlee, and an additional 1,000 people at events and retreats the rest of the year. Additionally, we employ roughly 200 people each year for these programs. A core and essential element of our camps is experiencing the outdoors, with a highlight being learning to swim and boat on Lake Fairlee. Often, this is the first time our youngest campers have ever been in a lake. Other campers are just learning how to canoe, kayak, paddleboard, and sail under the guidance of our staff. Wakesports pose a safety hazard to these activities. Parents entrust the camps will keep their children safe. The 3 to 5 foot waves caused by wakesports make both the shoreline and mid-lakes unable and unsafe for campers to use. Many who are new to water sports or swimming. These experiences of large wakes for a newer swimmer or boater causes fear and disruption to learning and the overall experience. I have seen young children at camp refusing to get in the water because of the wakes. I see parents not comfortable boating at family camp due to the big wake coming their way. Injuries could enhance further concerns and impact camp revenues and potential financial stability. Our programs are not insulated. We significantly contribute to the local economy. Our staff frequent restaurants and shops. The foundation spends more than $60,000 a year at local farms and markets, more than $150,000 on vendors and contractors to repair and maintain our facilities, and more than twice that in property taxes. Wakesports pose a direct threat to the safety of campers and the Aloha Foundation. Therefore, we ask the ANR to prohibit the wakesports use on Lake Fairlee.
Thank you. Next, we have Mary Kim Bunnell.
Hi, I'm Mary Kim Bunnell. I'm speaking as a homeowner, a lake resident, a boater, and for the last 25 years, I've lived on the lake. And I live right on the wake boat portion of the lake. As a physician, I really focus on safety, which is greatly compromised on Lake Fairlee when the wake boats are in use. Realistically, only one boat can really circle safely, and that means the other water sports really just cease during that time. It's just plain not safe. I don't understand how anyone can legitimately decide that the current guidance is accurate. We are fortunate to have a west view, and while the few wake boats that are out have been respectful of the current guidelines, we know to send the signal, yelling to the family enjoying the waterfront, 3 minutes, and that gives us enough time to pull the kids off the shoreline, tell my mother, who is 88, to bring her kayak or her paddleboard in, and keep a watchful eye on the extended waterfront for the novice Ohana campers on paddleboards and kayak who are in need of rescue. This has happened too many times. We also have witnessed the pontoon boat accidents. The wake is unpredictable, it is deep, it does not dissipate rapidly as promised by the quote unquote studies of the area. Why would we risk these injuries when it can be prevented? Simply said, the lake in that area is not large enough. Come and sit on our dock and feel and watch. You will be frightened for the safety of the lake residents when the wake boats are in use. In medicine, when we find compromised safety, we do a root cause analysis and make recommendations to correct it. Stop the madness. Does no one have common sense anymore? The root cause is the wake boats, and the solution is simple: no wake boats. Thank you.
Next, we have Amy McLaughlin, followed by Ben McLaughlin.
Thank you. I'm Amy McLaughlin. I'm a property owner and a member of the Lake Fairlee Association. I began on the lake in 1980. We've raised our 2 children there. Our kids have attended the Aloha camps and spent the summers on the lake. First, I want to commend the state of Vermont and the ANR for the rulemaking that was made in April 2024 after a very long and fair process. I believe it was a positive outcome specifically for Lake Fairlee. The process was complete with all data and science submitted, and I believe the outcome was correct. The current rule has good compromise for all and provides a safe environment on the lake. The current petition that was submitted before the season occurred and allowed for no time to measure and determine new rules placed. This was direct, and this is directly to the Lake Fairlee petition. The petition is not accurate as data presented does not take in consideration the new guidelines. One example of this is on page 20 where the petition refers to unsafe swimming by Treasure Island. The current small wakeboard zone on the other end is on the other end of the lake. And this is one example of the petition not having current data. The petition states 19 boats entered the lake in 2023. This is not factual as the Lake Fairlee greeters admittedly did not know how to identify wake boats until the June of 2024. They were only trained on identification in June. As I live on the lake, I've only seen 2 home boats and 1 additional wake boat with minimal use. It is also worth mentioning that the Lake Fairlee Association Board of Trustees did not engage the membership when making this decision. The vote to submit the petition was not unanimous, and it was taken via email with no disclosure or availability for members to participate, leading to a breakdown of process and procedure. Lake Fairlee has 2 home lake boats that are used less than 15 hours for the entire season combined, and we have data that will be certified and submitted to the state. The current 500-foot rule allows for a safe and environmentally friendly normal use. Thank you to deny this petition.
Thank you. Next, we have Ben McLaughlin, followed by Gretchen Morgan.
Hi, my name is Ben McLaughlin, and our family operates one of the wake boats on Lake Fairlee. Shall we dispel with some of the fear and hysteria surrounding wake boat operation? I can tell you because I'm an operator of one of the wake boats on the lake. The 3 to 5 foot wakes, they don't exist. The large waves coming to the shore, they don't exist. How do I know that? I've measured them. We've taken our boat out to the middle of out to the Wakesport zone and operated it in full Wakesport zone, full ballast tanks, and we've come up with information to the closest to the shore. The amplitude of the wakes that come to shore are 4 inches. That's plus or minus 2 inches hitting the shore. Full ballast, full Wakesport operation. That's plus or minus 2 inch coming to shore. At the closest part. Let that sink in a little bit. Our Wakesport zone, when operated appropriately down the middle of it, is approximately 1,000 feet from the middle of the Wakesport zone as we've operated for the last 4 years to the shore. At the farthest point, over 1,600 feet. Our Wakesport zone is over 40 feet deep in most of it, and especially where we operate. So shall we dispel with the prop wash to hitting the ground and stirring stuff up? It does not exist. The 2024 operation, as Amy noted, we have an aggregate of 14 to 16 hours aggregate for the summer. So shall we dispel with the hysteria surrounding the operation? The current rule is more than sufficient. We've operated successfully, and I've witnessed the operation because I've done almost all of the driving for our boat during that time, looking at all the people in the boats, in the kayaks, in the paddle boards. No one's fallen. No one got washed over. I've watched almost all of the hours. This is personal. This is my observation. This is not hysteria and hearsay. In summary, I say that the existing rule is fine. We operate successfully, and we continue from there. Thank you.
All right. Next, we have Gretchen Morgan, followed by Emily Doe.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you. So I'm a user of Lake Fairlee for over 40 years. I attended the camps on the lake and now have 2 children who also attend the summer camps on the lake. I want nothing more than to see this lake preserved for my children and future generations. However, as a co-owner of a boat that resides on this lake, I do not support the full ban. The petition filed by Lake Fairlee did not include any voting or input from their members, and such when that petition was filed, it came as a surprise to me, a member. The petition submitted was using data that was prior to when the Vermont ruling in April 2024 was applied, and thus significantly overstates the current use of wake boats. And I fully understand the desire to maintain the lake, but I ask, why can we not give this Vermont ruling, a designated wake boat zones, a try? Perhaps we need to consider the size of the boat or the qualifications of the driver of the boat. Why does it have to be an all or nothing decision? Instead of taking into consideration the entire population of users on the Lake Fairlee Association have pitted neighbors against neighbors in what honestly feels like a personal attack or a witch hunt for the two neighbors who own wake boats. The language used today by many of the people who have spoken creates fear and significantly overstates the use of wake boats, often confusing wake sports and wake boats. I honestly wonder if many who support this petition understand that wakeboarding, water skiing, and many other activities behind motorboats will not go away with this petition. Please deny the petition so that all of us can enjoy the lake and not just the few who have spoken today. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Emily Doe, followed by Sean. Oh, did Sean Collins already? Yeah. Okay, so Emily Doe, followed by Alexis Jetter.
Thank you. Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. I had a significant prepared speech, but I do have to say, just to start, I find myself saddened and disheartened by the use of the scare tactics that have happened in the drama language that has been used here tonight. It was part of, for me as a mother and children who utilize the lake and go to the summer camps, I am dismayed by the language and the drama that has been used to explain use of the wake boats. I am a member of the LFA, and I was not notified there was an intent to ban all wake sports on Lake Fairlee for the secondary petition. I believe the LFA is not working on behalf of all the constituents, more in line with their personal preferences, as well as their preference of responsible wakes. When the final ruling came out with the 500-foot rule, I thought it was more than reasonable to adhere to a nice balance for all people who like to enjoy Lake Fairlee. With this new position, is beyond a request to not allow everybody to use the lake in the way they want to, and it's not in the best interest of the community as a whole. Like I said, I am a mother. I have two children who go to the camps, and I feel incredibly safe with my children on the lakes. And I am a sailor. I am a sailboat racer. I'm a paddleboarder. I am a kayaker, and I am a swimmer. And I also am a wakeboarder, and I like to wake surf. I do every single one of those activities happily and safely on the lake. And I am very saddened by the drama tactics that have been used tonight to try and limit the use of wake boats on the lake. Thank you.
All right, and last on our list is Alexis Jetter. Alexis? Yeah. Okay, we can't hear you. I think you're muted. Alexis?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, now we can.
Okay, great. Sorry about that. A couple things. I wasn't planning on speaking. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I wasn't planning on speaking, but I think my experience might be worth hearing and considering. I don't live on Lake Fairlee. I'm not a member of the Lake Fairlee Association, although I really am grateful for the work that they do. I live within about 4 miles of Lake Fairlee, and for the last 35 years, my partner and I and our children, starting 28 years ago, have spent pretty much all summer at Lake Fairlee, as did my elderly mother outlaw, who loved to swim there as well. So I feel like the lake is kind of a part of my body. I long distance swim from Treasure Island to the northern tip of the lake, sometimes taking advantage of Doug Tiff's raft to relax on. And we swim past loons, great blue herons, bald eagles, loon chicks as well. And always I have found that motorboats and pontoon boats have been really considerate in seeing us. You know, we make sure that we're seen. We jump up and down in the water and wave our arms, and they always, you know, create a wide berth between us and them. That has not been true with the wake boats. We can hear them coming. It is, I want to say something about terrifying, fear mongering. I think actually this discussion has been very civil, very honest, very, from people's hearts. So I really don't agree that there's a lot of fear mongering. I think there's fear, and I think that fear is legitimate. And I can tell you as a swimmer, I'm not an Ironman swimmer, but I do like to long distance swim, and Lake Fairlee is a spectacular place to do that. It's very quiet. There's beautiful wildlife, and it's safe, even with motorboats and pontoon boats. But
we just hit our 2-minute mark.
Okay, thanks. I think I can limit myself. When wake boats approach, they're coming so fast, and that prow is so far high up, and I worry that they don't. And
we're going to have to cut it off there. I'm sorry. Thank you. But you are welcome to submit comments in writing. Thank you. Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. We do have to cut it off. We have to be fair to everybody with the time.
Sorry.
Okay. Okay. And so Carol Phillips would like to make a comment. Is that?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm a civil engineer, and I've studied this quite a bit. And just one thing, if a boat is 500 feet from shore, a wake boat, the wake does not hit shore until the wake boat is about a quarter mile beyond that point. So I don't see how a driver of a wake boat could see the impact that their wake is having on the shoreline, because they're already a quarter mile away, and they would not see the children at the beach or the fishermen or anybody else struggling, because they're too far away by the time their wake travels 500 feet. Thank you.
All right. Do we have anybody else in the room that would like to make a comment for Lake Fairlee? Okay. All right. And so it looks like we do have a couple people online. We're just about at the Waterbury Reservoir time slot. Should we? Let's give Jim McCracken. Okay. All right. All right. We have time for one more now, and then if we have some more time at the end, we can take additional comments, but we're trying to stay on our agenda. Also, if anybody would like, if they feel like they haven't gotten to say, please submit comments in writing. We are happy to read. We'll read every word of all the comments we receive. So Jim McCracken. Jim McCracken? Okay.
Shift. Hello?
Hello, we hear you.
Okay. I'm a member of the Thetford Conservation Commission, and just reading the letter that we approved last night. The Thetford Conservation Commission supports the petition to prohibit wake sports on Lake Fairlee. We believe the need is clear, well supported by research, and in the public interest. The Thetford Conservation Commission is charged with protecting natural resources, providing public education, and allowing for low impact recreational uses consistent with town and regional conservation goals. Allowing wake sports on Lake Fairlee conflicts with these goals. Our town cannot effectively provide for low impact recreational uses on Lake Fairlee if wake sports are allowed on the lake. Lake Fairlee is home to 5 summer camps where children regularly use normal uses of the lake as defined by the Vermont Use of Public Waters rules. Vermont does not consider wake sports a normal use. Wake boats, ocean-like 3-foot wakes, increase the likelihood of swamping or capsizing other boats such as canoes, kayaks, and paddleboards enjoyed by young campers. They also present a danger to swimmers and interfere with water skiing, which is best performed on flat water, and sailing, which is best enjoyed farther from the shore where the wind is most consistent. Young people enjoying water sports bring them closer to nature, nurturing lifelong conservation ethic. We believe wake sports present a danger to Thetford residents and guests wishing to safely enjoy the lake. Our town cannot effectively protect Lake Fairlee's natural resources if wake sports are allowed on the lake. There is a known Eurasian milfoil section adjacent to the wake sports zone, and even well-intentioned boaters trying to stay within the 500-foot boundary have a high potential of entering the milfoil area. Wake books very effectively shred and fragment and spread Eurasian milfoil in the lake. Annually, our town provides funds to the Lake Fairlee Association to help manage milfoil.
Right. We've hit our 2-minute mark.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thanks. Okay, so we're going to move to the Waterbury Reservoir portion of our meeting. And we'll have that presentation starting in just a moment. See if I can. Okay, will do. I am. Thanks. No, we're just kind of transitioning. Who are you giving the presentation? Yeah. Okay. Here we go. I think this is just some scenery of Waterbury Reservoir to be played in the background. So if it works, okay. So you'll have to speak into this microphone, okay, so that people online can hear you.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Eric Chittenden, and I'm the president of the Friends of Waterbury Reservoir. We are thankful for this opportunity to make comments regarding Wakesports on the reservoir. The petitioner, Friends of Waterbury Reservoir, requests that Appendix A of Vermont's Use of Public Waters rules be amended by adopting under Waterbury Reservoir a new rule as follows: wake sports are prohibited. In recent years, the Friends of Waterbury Reservoir stewardship challenges have increased significantly as the lake has experienced tremendous growth in popularity with all user groups. According to water sports vendors, including Umiak Outfitters, stand-up paddle sports has led the increase by far. Wake sports dangerously conflict with long-established normal uses on the reservoir, creating serious risk to the health and safety of other users and interfering with the use and enjoyment of the many remote wilderness-like campsites. The Friends of Waterbury Reservoir is now compelled to respond to threats presented by the conduct of wake sports, threats to user safety, the wilderness-like opportunities, and to the hard-won, carefully balanced variety of recreational activities that took place in the early 1990s. These threats are the most serious in the 61 years of managed recreation on the reservoir. Vermont is not alone. States across the country are dealing with the negative impacts of wake sports, including water quality and the spread of aquatic invasive species. The proposed rule would supplement existing Vermont laws by further protecting the natural resources of the Waterbury Reservoir. Since 1963, recreation management has become major. The reservoir has become an important, much-used destination for water-based recreational activities. Popularity is due in part to being surrounded by thousands of acres of state-owned land and the complete absence of private waterfront development. That, together with the unusual shape consisting of 3 separate, relatively narrow arms, has led to the reservoir becoming a very popular recreational resource, largely protected from heavy winds and large natural waves. The reservoir is home to 2 heavily visited state parks: Waterbury Center State Park, which is a day use area with a beach, boat launch, and picnic facilities, and Little River State Park, which offers a full range of camping services. It is estimated that over 100,000 people visit the reservoir each year. whether at one of the state parks or to put in at one of the remote access points to paddle, fish, go camping, or otherwise enjoy its many wonders. All of these lakes, lake activities generate significant incomes to our state and local economies. The arm of the reservoir, Waterbury Reservoir, known as the dam arm, is where wake sporters are now allowed to generate. The other two, they are not. To generate man-made artificial wakes for surfing. Currently, vendors and state personnel caution paddlers, fisher people, adaptive sports folks, and others low-impact users about the potential wake sport safety issues on the dam arm. A sad result of these essential safety warnings has been that the users are staying away from the dam arm, even though DEC has verbally stated that all users are allowed to use that arm. The reality is that many users are avoiding the wake sports arm because of angst created by not knowing when wake sporters will show up. By default, this intimidation has banned many users from enjoying this arm of the lake. We are getting similar reports. So we're getting similar reports from other associations, and Lake Willoughby was one of them. Please view the gauntlet map, which is in our petition. To ignore these gauntlets is to turn a blind eye to reality and is irresponsible. Gauntlet C is the single most dangerous stretch for small watercraft on the reservoir. And Gauntlet C is where the three arms come together, and to get from one arm to the other, you have to go right through these wakes. The fear of being swamped is real and palpable. In its 1994 ruling, the Vermont Water Resources Board stated that many recreational uses have the potential to seriously diminish or even preclude other uses. This does not mean that all Vermont lakes that accommodate a wide diversity of uses, such as the reservoir, need to be regulated to advocate their use exclusively to one recreational use or another. However, it may mean that some lakes which, like the reservoir, are under significant pressure to serve the regional needs of a variety of diverse and conflicting uses. They may need to be regulated to ensure that all normal uses are reasonably available. Wake sports continues to preclude established normal uses of the reservoir. This is possibly the first time in the history that man has intentionally created artificial wakes on lakes specifically for their sports activities. Normally, efforts are made to reduce wakes to protect shorelines and structures, such as Vermont's 200-foot rule. When you look out onto the Waterbury Reservoir, what you observe is pretty much what you would have seen back in 1938, 86 years ago, when Vermont took over control and management of the lake. It is up to us now to protect this resource. Lake degradation and safety concerns have rapidly increased on wake sports lakes throughout the country, including here in Vermont. We need to be proactive, and we have the information and the spine, and we should use it. Prohibiting wake sports on the Waterbury Reservoir would preserve long-established normal uses on the lake, enhance the state's investment in recreational facilities, and enable Vermonters and visitors to enjoy the reservoir's unique recreational and wilderness-like opportunities for generations to come. The responsibility is ours. Let's go forward and ban wake sports on the Waterbury Reservoir so that other users, including adaptive sports folks, can return. It will be a strong endorsement of respect for Vermont's use of public waters. We are proud to have the nod of all 3 local select boards, Friends of Winooski River, and local conservation commissions. These organizations represent thousands of local Waterbury Reservoir users.
All right, so we will move into the comment portion of this meeting for Waterbury Reservoir. First up, we've got John Bauer, followed by Stephen Brownlee. John Bauer, are you online? John Bauer? Okay. Stephen Brownlee. All right, followed by Francine Chittenden.
Hello, everybody. My name is Stephen Brownlee. I'm a Vermont native. I've spent most of my lifetime visiting the Waterbury Reservoir. As a young child, I went there with my family canoeing and stayed at the campground. After my years in college, I returned to Vermont, working for the Mad River Canoe Company, running their paddling programs. I've been in the paddle sport business for over 45 years. And subsequently, after leaving Mad River Canoe Company, I started Umiak Outfitters. We've been operating for close to 30 years now. And in that position, if you're not familiar with Umiak Outfitters, we sell canoes and kayaks and stand-up paddleboards in the northern Vermont region, and we're one of Vermont's largest paddle sport dealers, so I deal with a lot of different paddle sport folks that come through. We also run a paddle sport instruction, rental, and tour operation on the Waterbury Reservoir, and we have put quite a number of folks out on the water. As a professional, I've been charged with training many of the instructors in proper safety and rescue of capsized crafts out on our waterways. As my professional perspective on this new wake sport rule that has really created a major safety concern for the quiet water paddlers. And the concern is that it's the most vulnerable beginner paddlers who are having much trouble out on the waterways. And a lot of this has to do with the shape and design of these boats. They're flat bottoms, whether they're stand-up paddleboard or kayak, a big wave comes by and that gets tipped over very quickly. Am I out of time?
Yes, we'll take your written comments. Laura's taking a bathroom break, so we have Francine Chittenden next, and then Sheila, followed by Sheila Goss.
That it really isn't a microphone. Good evening. My name is Francine Chittenden. I'm a 49-year Waterbury resident. I'm currently the treasurer of the Friends of Waterbury Reservoir and also the coordinator and administrator of our greeter program. I'm involved, and I've also was involved in the early 1990s lake-specific petition that was brought before ANR way back when. I urge DEC to support our petition. Through the 1994 petition process, the wilderness-like experience that we enjoy today on the Waterbury Reservoir was preserved for future generations. My observations of the reservoir pre-1994 included a rather unsavory thing. It was like a Wild West atmosphere on the reservoir, and trashing of the shoreline and waters was pretty common. Remote campsites were selfishly commandeered for the summer. These users epitomized a complete disregard for the environment. The lack of enforcement of recent rules raises concerns about a similar outcome with wake sports. Scientific studies support how wake sports damage lakes and how they could transport aquatic invasive species between lakes. Wake sports depend on artificially generated ocean-sized waves. This is possibly the first time in the history of man that we've intentionally created these waves for recreation purposes. In my mind, it's akin to sailboat enthusiasts artificially deciding they should generate winds so they can enjoy sailing on the reservoir. Nothing very different from that. Consideration must be given to lakes such as the Waterbury Reservoir that have fluctuating water levels due to ongoing flood control and repairs. Currently, the reservoir is scheduled to be drawn down 30 to 50 feet. Oh dear. In 2027 to 2029, and I'd like to know what ANR is going to do about that. Just remember, preservation and protection of land and other natural resources for enjoyment by future generations is part of what conservation means. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Sheila Goss, followed by, is that Dr. Eric Chittenden, maybe?
Bell ring for me, so I'm going to go fast. My name is Sheila Goss. I live in Stowe. I'm the vice president of the Friends of Waterbury Reservoir, and I'm here to make a statement to support the petition that we filed to ban wake sports on Waterbury Reservoir. Why do I care about wake sports on the Waterbury Reservoir? I care because I canoe there at least 100 days a season and enjoy sharing the reservoir with other human-powered vessels and the various birds and wildlife seen on and along the reservoir. You saw some of my photos earlier. But I've also seen the negative impacts of erosion, invasive species, including the newly arrived yellow irises, and shoreline impacts of wakes. While camping on remote sites, I have had my canoe tossed and smashed against the shoreline by smaller boats violating the existing no-wake zones, wakes that are still much smaller than those extreme wakes created by wake sports activities. I now cannot safely canoe or camp in or near the dam arm, as the potential presence of large and powerful wakes created by wake sports activity means my pup and I could be swamped or capsized. As a retired Vermont State Police detective, I have seen too many drownings and water fatalities to casually dismiss the potential tragedy that wake sports could cause. Paddlers and operators of fishing and ski boats have reached, over a long period of time in conflict, a generally cooperative coexistence, as those boat operators have strict regulations to reduce the risk to quiet paddlers and their wave impact is not extreme. Some reservoir users that oppose wake sports have taken matters into their own hands, resulting in dangerous confrontations. The lack of actual and reliable enforcement of wake sports regulations has created a Wild West environment where accountability and responsibility can be shirked by irresponsible wake sports participants. The presence of wake sports changes the recreational game, creating much more extreme risks to humans and the environment and restricting the area of the reservoir that can safely be shared by all. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So Eric Chittenden, followed by Ray Gonda.
Thank you. I have my Friends of Waterbury Reservoir hat on before, and this is my Eric Chittenden hat. But just want to DEC has looked for some new information, new discussion, so it's going to be a little bit different. I write these comments as a true water rat, a swimmer, a paddler, 13-month stint on a scientific research vessel in the Indian Ocean, a Great Lakes sailor, and a 50-year career as a deep sea sailor, retiring with a captain's license to command the largest ships in the world. I've transited every waterway that feeds every major city along America's shoreline, from Boston, New York, Philadelphia, Baltimore, the Gulf Coast, down the West Coast, and Hawaii, and Puerto Rico, and most of the other islands that we govern. From these massive ships and motorboats, as they go up and down these rivers, I need to tell you, the the wakes that these massive ships, I was second in command of the second largest ship in the U.S. Navy's fleet at one point for a couple of years, and you do not make anywhere near the amount of wakes that's allowed by these wake boats. When you go down the Mississippi River, you're looking at fishing boats ashore, and there's nothing that these fishermen would like better than for a company to pay for a new boat. Anyway, two things stand out in above waterway statistics. One is that these waterways are patrolled, and the other is that the distances are not just from shore, but include from the shore, docks, bridges, and other fixed objects. So the 200-foot Vermont rule should take that into account, and it would be a better situation.
We've hit our 2-minute mark.
Oh, 2 minutes up.
It does go by fast. Yep. Thank you. All right. Next, we've got Ray Gonda, followed by Michael Strongny.
Hi, my name is Ray Gonda. I'm from South Burlington. I do not live on the reservoir, obviously, but I've paddled there, I fished there, and I have friends that live nearby. I've been involved in advocacy efforts on the reservoir since 1990. So what I'm going to say is focused on Waterbury Reservoir, but really applies to all of the petitions. Invasive species. Oh, I forgot to mention, I had a career of a decade of teaching physics and 20 years as an IBM engineer and scientist. Science tells us that given the miniature size of some aquatic invasive species, it is highly unlikely that when boat ballast water is emptied, the ballast tank will become completely dry. Spores, larvae, or eggs are so small they can survive in just droplets of water. Rules that allow these boats to go from lake to lake are currently moot because of this, which will eventually and certainly lead to widely spread invasives from lake to lake. Now, regulating operation of wake boats. To expect wake boaters to self-regulate is a naive notion promoted by the Wakesports industry and is self-serving. Self-regulation may be true when very few wake boats operate on any given lake, but given time with more such boats, regulations will progressively be ignored and regulatory corners will be cut in operating such boats. That is inevitably human nature when such powerful vehicles are at one's fingertips. We see news clips frequently enough about many industries which are expected to self-regulate, cutting corners, sometimes getting caught and punished. It's no stretch to suspect that many more infractions are never detected. It's the nature of things.
Thank you. We've hit our 2 minutes. But
it's up already?
Yeah, sorry. But thank you. Again, to anybody, I'm apologizing. I apologize to cut you off. It's just we're trying to stick to the 2 minutes. So please feel free to submit comments in writing. And next we have Michael Strongny. I'm sorry. I understand. I've got a complicated last name. And then followed by Michael is Chipstone.
Just want to comment, shorten your introduction and get to the point of why you're supporting or opposing. Well, my name is Mike Strongny. I'm from Moretown, and I have a degree from Northeastern in outdoor recreation, and I've worked in this industry all my life. I still work for UMIAC part-time as a kayak instructor. I'm on the reservoir often with my family, at least once a week. And so I'm going to relate to you one instance that happened to me paddling south near the Little River Campground and being approached by a rather large powerboat. I don't believe it was a wake boat because I'm not sure we had them on the lake at that point, but he got about 10 feet from me before he turned. Because his bow was so high in the air, I don't think he ever saw me. He never slowed down, and he just barely turned, and I don't know for what reason. I thought he was going to run me over. I wasn't really afraid of his wake. but I was pretty afraid of his bow. About a week after that, I was delivering boats down on Lake George, and my wife and I stopped to paddle on one of the coves, paddled out from a marina. And when I got home, I read in the newspaper that day, an old feller about my age now got run over by a boat. And the reason was the bow was high in the air. The driver of the boat didn't see him and ran him over. That person died. And so to me, allowing boats on Waterbury Reservoir, where we have so much traffic, is dangerous. Somebody's going to get hurt. Somebody's going to get run over. So I'll give up the rest of my 2 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Is John Bauer online? Okay. John Bauer? Okay, I see you there, but we can come back. Jeffrey York? Oh, I'm so sorry. Chipstone, I'm sorry. Thank you, everybody, for keeping me in line.
Thank you. Hello, I'm Chip Stone. I live in East Montpelier. I was capsized on the Waterbury Reservoir by a wake boat. It was not a malicious event, and it was following the rules. It was more than 200 feet from me. It was a little more, its wake was large enough to capsize me. It was more than 200 feet from me. A 3 to 5 foot wave generated 200 feet from a paddler or swimmer is indisputably dangerous. We, my wife and I, no longer paddle on the reservoir on weekends, and if a wake boat is present during the week, we leave. Wake boat sports are the only water sport whose presence then precludes the safe use of canoes, kayaks, and paddleboards anywhere nearby. Wake sports on our inland lakes, simply put, are incompatible with traditional activities. The rules require wake boats be 500 feet from shore and 200 feet from swimmers, paddlers, and other boaters. A 3 to 5 foot wave generated 200 feet from traditional users is dangerous. That can't be overstated. I'd also add that jet skis are not permitted on the reservoir. Does it make any sense that wake boats should be? It really doesn't. The appropriate venues for wake sports are the open waters of Champlain, Memphremagog, and the Connecticut River Lakes, and Lake Champlain is only 30 miles from the reservoir. I urge you to approve this petition, and I thank the Friends of the Waterbury Reservoir and the 3 surrounding towns for advancing this petition.
Next up, we've got Jeffrey York, followed by Danny Kelman.
Hi, thank you. I'm Jeff York. I live in Jericho, Vermont. I'm a frequent paddler on Waterbury Reservoir, and I urge that you accept this petition to prohibit wake boats on Waterbury Reservoir. It is really, for the people in Chittenden County, it is the last undeveloped place to paddle. If you want to go paddle someplace and you don't want to paddle in front of cabins all day, it is the last place we have to paddle. And frankly, the wake boats would ruin that. And I paddle there a lot. There are probably 20 paddle boards and kayaks and canoes for every motor boat that is on that lake. It is widely used by a large number of paddleboard folks of all ages, and it's bad enough with the water skiers, but certainly the wake boats shouldn't be allowed in that last place that we still have to paddle that's undeveloped. Thank you.
Okay, John Bauer?
Yes, can you hear me?
We can.
Excellent. I'll begin by reading a letter from Sue Johansson, who's a resident who lives near the Blush Hill entrance to the Waterbury Reservoir. And she says, I am writing in support of the efforts to remove wake boats from using the Waterbury Reservoir at all in any space. My husband and I are in our 80s and have canoed, kayaked, fished, camped, and enjoyed the Waterbury Reservoir for the past 35 years. We have seen the use of the reservoir for water sports, and just plain enjoyment of its spectacular nature increased dramatically, making the reservoir a very busy place many days. The waves caused by the wake boats make the experiences in kayaks, canoes, and paddleboards very challenging and outright dangerous. A couple of years ago, I was standing in the water with my back to the major reservoir at Blush Hill Boat Launch and holding our 2 kayaks while my husband went to get our vehicle to load the kayaks. A wake boat wave came up behind me and knocked me over and pushed both kayaks up on the rocky shore. Every wave stirs up the shoreline and arrives with great force. The enforcement of all regulations on the reservoir is irregular, causing wake boat drivers to have little incentive to follow any restrictions. And when these boats are present, kayakers, canoeists, paddleboarders, fishermen, and loons are endangered, and the enjoyment of using the reservoir is greatly diminished. This is unfair as well as dangerous. Thank you for considering that the Waterbury Reservoir should not be used by wake boats due to these considerations. It is important to keep the reservoir safe for all users and to protect the natural beauty of this beautiful water body, which is valuable for recreation, wildlife, and the pure enjoyment of experiencing nature in peace and quiet.
Okay. So, John, you had signed up for your own, and then you are also indicated here to read something by Sue Johnson. Would you like to, do you have a separate one, separate comment?
Sure. I'd be happy if you'll allow me the time.
Why not? I know.
All right.
Okay. Well, I just want to make sure because you're on the list twice.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
No problem.
All right. Well, so, basically I failed to understand why we're even having this discussion. The existing Vermont rules have failed. There's supposed to be stickers identifying wake boats, limiting them to home waters, and that didn't happen. The boats are required to be cleaned and inspected before changing waters. That hasn't happened. And our waters are supposed to be regulated for common and ordinary use. Now, there's no enforcement of the existing rules. So basically, they mean nothing. Now, I know people who have wakeboarded, and I know it's a lot of fun. And I understand the joy and the why people are drawn to it. But hey, ocean-sized waves on inland bodies of water are not common, nor are they ordinary. They're destructive and they're disturbing. They're kind of like a monster truck at a garden party. So I've heard wakeboard supporters argue that stand-up paddleboards are also not a common and ordinary use, which boggles my imagination. I mean, does a noisy, wave-making, high-bow riding boat blasting music over the sound of their engines compare to a silent paddle boat? I mean, if they're going to say paddleboards are not common use because they didn't exist when the original rules were drafted, I guess that means also that carbon fiber paddles are not allowed because they didn't exist either. Anyway, the whole thing reminds me of tobacco companies telling us that smoking is safe, or oil companies denying climate change. It's kind of crazy. It's kind of nonsense. Wake boats make a lot of waves when they are having people surf behind them. I mean, it's surfing. It's like, Hawaii. It's like, anyway. I digress.
All right. Well, we just hit our 2 minutes.
Oh.
So.
Can I quickly finish? All right, I'm sorry. So it's basically the reservoir is a tourist engine that brings millions of dollars to the area every year. The day use area is the second busiest in the state, and I think wakeboarding is going to disrupt all of that. It's going to be a severe economic problem.
All right, thank you. We've got to wrap it up. Thank you. All right, so next we have Danny Kelman, followed by Eric Davis. Danny, are you online? Danny Kelman? All right. Okay, Eric Davis? Is Eric Davis here? All right. Well, that concludes the portion of comments we have signed up for Waterbury Reservoir. Does anybody in the room, do you would like? Oh, you did. Okay. I apologize. Here you are.
Thank you. Laura, Jenny, Misha. I'm Jim Langle from Duxbury. I'm here on behalf of my children and grandchildren who are regular users of the Waterbury Reservoir. They paddle, they swim, they use the wilderness camping areas only accessible by boat. Imagine my youngest granddaughter, 10 years old, her birthday was yesterday, and her family paddling across the reservoir in their canoe loaded with camping gear. The gunnels rest about 6 inches above the water line. As they pass the gauntlet that Eric talked about on their way to the campsite, a wake surfer approaches from the southwest, spouting just a small 2-foot wake. The canoe alters its course to starboard in order to avoid the wake, but it's too late. The wake swoops across the 500 feet, separating the Wakesports zone from the rocky shore. The canoe is now approaching the rocks 250 feet outside the Wakesports zone when it is hit by the wake. How high is that wake? And what would its effect on the canoe? 2 studies can help us answer this question. The first, conducted by the University of Tasmania, measured that wake as 8.5 inches high at a distance of 250 feet from the wake surfer. The second, conducted by the Water Sports Industry Association itself, measured the wake height at 14 inches high at 250 feet. Other studies have found similar results. A wake of 8 to 14 inches is more than enough, not only to rock my granddaughter's canoe, but to spill several inches of water over the gunnels and probably swamp the boat. Now, those studies were conducted many years ago with less powerful wake boats that made 26-inch high waves. The current models make waves 42 inches high. Imagine what such a wave would do to our little canoe, or to a swimmer, or to an angler, or to a kayaker. Your agency, by law, is responsible to preserve the safety and enjoyment of all normal uses of the Waterbury Reservoir. To allow wake surfing on such a narrow body would abrogate your responsibility and endanger thousands of tourists as well as Vermonters like my granddaughter.
Thank you. Oh, thank you. Okay, and then we had another person sign up in the room, Michael Bard. Is Michael Bard here? Oh, he had to leave. Okay. Okay, so anybody else in the room to make a comment on Waterbury Reservoir? Anybody online? Okay, then we will, or does anybody have a comment on any of the other petitions before we move to Joe's Pond? Okay. All right, we will move to Joe's Pond. And, great.
David.
Yes, hi, nice to meet you. I'm Laura.
It's okay if I sit down.
Sure, of course. Just speak into the microphone.
My name is David Kidney, and I'm here on behalf of the Joe's Pond Association and the towns of Danville and Cabot to urge you to pass our petition to prohibit wake sports on Joe's Pond. Let me say first of all that the members of Joe's Pond overwhelmingly support this petition in both an online survey and in our annual July 3rd meeting. And we are honored that the towns of Danville and Cabot have joined as co-petitioners after their select boards unanimously voted to do so. The fact that these 3 entities, the 2 towns in which Joe's Pond is located, and the association which represents the 240 camp owners on the pond, all vigorously support the prohibition of wake sports
on Joe's Pond should go a long way to persuading you that our petition should be granted. The gist of our petition is that Wake's boats irreconcilably and dangerously conflict with long-standing normal uses on Joe's Pond and negatively impact the shoreline of the pond. Joe's Pond is a beautiful body of water nestled in the idyllic towns of Danville and Cabot. Normal uses on the pond are swimming, kayaking, canoeing, paddleboarding, fishing, sailing, water skiing, and tubing. All of these are incompatible with wake surfing, which in many instances precludes normal uses as they are not able to use the pond when it is churned up by huge waves. The ANR has concluded that wake sports are not a normal use, and the Water Resource Board has recognized that not all uses may be accommodated on a particular body of water because some will severely diminish or even preclude other uses. This is exactly the situation on Joe's Pond. Wake sports have seriously diminished and precluded normal uses on the pond. As such, wake sports create an irreconcilable use conflict. And where such conflict exists, UPW Rule 26E states that they shall be managed in a manner that provides for all normal uses to the greatest extent possible. To achieve this on Joe's Pond, wake sports must be prohibited. Under the current wake sports rule, Joe's Pond has an eligible wake sports zone of 54 acres, just over the 50-acre minimum. The zone is in the south part of the third pond and covers the entire broad and deep part of the lake. As such, it usurps a section of the lake that has always been used and enjoyed by generations of lake goers engaged in normal activities. Throughout the summer, Joe's Pond residents and visitors enjoy heading to and actively using the south end of the lake. Many people, especially kids, revel in swimming off their boats in the 90-foot hole. Sailors love the broad part of the lake, which is the only part of the lake where they can make long tacks. Paddlers quietly crisscross this part of the pond at random. Skiers and tubers make their wide turns in the south end. Pontoon boats cruise there and stop and drift, savoring the views. And anglers stop there to fish the deep waters. Wake sports with their powerful wakes disturb and preclude all of these fun, time-honored pastimes. The powerful wake energy generated by wake sports renders the broad part of the pond unsafe and unusable for all normal recreational activities. Because of the new wake zone, the broad and deep part of the pond is now monopolized by a single interest niche sport. Joe's Pond's a very busy lake. We got 240 camps on its shore and a large boat access right off Route 2, which is directly across from the wake sports zone. The pond gets a ton of traffic. It is because the pond is so busy and the wake sports zone encompasses the entire broad part of the pond that wake sports on Joe's Pond pose an unreasonable and unacceptable threat to the public safety while engaging in normal use recreational activities. Wake sports' huge wakes endanger highly vulnerable swimmers and skiers and can swamp and capsize paddlers and other small boats, like the numerous sunfish that sail Joe's Pond on a regular basis, or the small aluminum fishing boats favored by many anglers. Even experienced paddlers risk capsizing, and children and other beginners do not stand a chance in an enormously enhanced wave. A single wake boat creates unsafe conditions across the entire designated zone on the broad lake, thus making it almost impossible for normal users to have safe access and enjoyment of this prime location. The bottom line is that the uniqueness of Joe's Pond, I must have missed a page, wait a minute. I did. The bottom line is that the uniqueness of, well, I wanted to say one other thing that I missed. At a public hearing, the DEC in February in Greensboro, Oliver Pearson said that the DEC had concluded that in order for wake boats to operate, they needed a 3,000-foot straight shot. You can't get that on Joe's Pond. On Joe's Pond, the longest straight shot you can get is 2,400 feet in that zone. This is a huge issue because what it means is wake boats have to turn around and go back and forth more frequently in order to enjoy the sport. And in this small zone, it means that it's going to magnify the danger and inconvenience to normal traditional users. The other thing about Joe's Pond is that there's 2 wake boats on the pond. So in this small, and when 2 wake boats are operating, the waves increase. When they hit each other, the science shows that the waves actually multiply and become more dangerous. And that's a huge issue on the pond where we have 2 lake boats. And actually, we're very concerned about more wake boats, which would be bigger and more powerful and have bigger wakes coming in the future if this ban is not instituted. So Joe's Pond is unique, and its uniqueness makes it uniquely unsuitable for wake sports. And that uniqueness being that the designated zone is so small. 2, that the zone encompasses the entire broad and deep part of the pond, the most popular area for normal use recreation. 3, the fact that the pond gets so much traffic. And 4, that the zone on Joe's Pond does not provide for a 3,000 straight foot shot necessary for wake boats to operate. These 4 unique characteristics create a real safety issue that cannot be ignored. Nobody wants himself, or even more so, their kids or grandkids on a sunfish, kayak, paddleboard, canoe, or other small craft out in the designated zone when wake sports are happening. The only way to protect normal users from exposure to the hazardous waves generated by wake sports is to prohibit such activity on Joe's Pond. As for shoreline erosion, property damage, and economic impact, all of that is addressed in our petition and is very real. And although environmental concerns are not addressed in our petition, petitioners are very concerned about wake boats promoting blue-green algae, which now bloom every summer in a cove adjacent to the designated zone. Although wake boats may try to stay in the zone, given the small size of the zone and the fact that it does not permit the necessary 3,000-foot straight shot, it is inevitable that they will go outside the zone occasionally in order to stay 200 feet away from normal users. When this happens, the bottom of the pond will be churned up, releasing the dormant phosphates that feed cyanobacteria. We're also concerned about the spread of Eurasian milfoil, which was found for the first time on Joe's Pond this year, despite one of the oldest and best inspection programs in the state. But you cannot check the ballast of a wake boat. And we're also concerned about our water quality and how that affects our wildlife, our loons, eagles, herons, and ducks. So we do have serious environmental concerns. In conclusion, the Joe's Pond Association, the town of Danville, and the town of Cabot urge A&R to conclude that the safety and best interest of traditional normal users can only be met by prohibiting wake sports on Joe's Pond. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so now we will begin the Joe's Pond portion of the comment period. If you are online, please make sure you're muted. Otherwise, it gives us feedback in the room. All right, first up, we have Richard Hackett, followed by Kevin Johnson.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.